All right, I'm going to call the meeting to order. And rise for the pledge of allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Gelman,
Here.
Chasm,
Here.
Horn, here, Lehman,
Here.
Underwood.
Here. Approval of agenda.
I can make a motion to amend the agenda with the changes listed on the blue sheet. The addition of item F, purchase of equipment, and item G to be moved to item K, 2024 project work.
All fair?
Aye.
Anybody have a conflict of interest on any subject tonight? Public comment.
Does anybody wish to have public comment? If so, I'll have Kylie read the rules and then you can go.
Any person may make an advanced appointment with the board regarding road commission topics for a regular or special meeting in accordance with the Open Meetings Act. If an appointment is made, the topic will be an agenda item. The following applies to public comments. Please state his or her name and address. Topic must be relevant to the road commission. Individuals are allowed to speak once for up to 3 minutes on a single topic, which may be extended by the chair. The group addressing the board requires a designated spokesperson who may speak up to 10 minutes. The board will not act on any item from the public that is not on the agenda.
Now you may go.
I didn't make an advanced appointment, so,
We can have
No, you
public comment.
You can speak.
okay.
Come up to the public comment.
Public comment, make your comment,
Okay.
and then if it's an appointment, that can be an actual item, so.
All right.
Go ahead and make
Thank
it.
So my name is Rachel Kimball. I live at 2312 Holiday Court, 49686. It's in Acme Township. My house is one of 3 in a cul-de-sac. I had called the road commission, I believe last week, to ask about putting in a privacy fence, approximately 20 feet in length. And I was told that the right-of-way is 59.5 feet in circular motion. And essentially that is half of my driveway. So I had called the assessor to get a diagram visual, so you could see where the right-of-way is. Where I'm wanting to put the fence is approximately 10 feet back from the edge of the pavement. And from my perspective, there's no impedance or obstruction to any type of maintenance such as snow plowing that would need to take place. So I wanted to ask for consideration of a variance to put that fence in.
There's a process that asks for variance, correct?
So you're at the end of the cul-de-sac, you said?
I'm sorry.
You said you're at the end of the cul-de-sac?
Yeah, yes. So I'm right in the middle.
You're the turnaround. For the,
Yeah.
the truck. It's no over 33 feet right away. So I'm thinking because she's at the end of the turnaround, it's probably bigger. Yeah, the difference.
We'll have to look into it, because there is
Okay.
a formal process when you ask for a
Okay.
variance. So.
Okay.
You gonna do that, Dan, or somebody else?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then it's gonna wind up becoming an appointment here.
Yeah.
Sure.
Then you get your appointment.
Then you
Okay.
can.
There's a
Okay.
process that has to-
Yeah, I don't know. I've never done this before.
Okay.
Oh,
So,
It's a good start.
It's a good start.
a little intimidating, but you know,
Yeah,
something that's
you ever
important to
come
me.
here?
Because it's
So,
new to us,
I'm
so
gonna-
we kind of
Yeah.
work with them and they give us
Yeah.
the facts of what's going
I
on.
mean,
If you don't mind getting with Kylie, she can get all your contact information and then we can get over
Sure.
it.
do you want this? Is it helpful for
If
reference?
you
at all?
don't need it, we can
Okay.
we'll take it.
Have you at all talked to your township as well?
I did, I actually sat down there and they said that they had nothing to do with any of it, and as far as they were concerned, it was fine.
Okay. So,
And before I forget, welcome Dan. It's his first meeting, so try not to beat up on you. Any more public comment?
Thanks for coming.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Consent calendar. Kylie, if you're ready, or when you're ready.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. Appointments. Randy's up first. What would it be about you making a mistake? Yes, please, come up, introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. First off, thanks for putting me on the agenda. My name's Randy Harden. I'm with Meridian Energy. We're an oil and gas company out of Hazlet. We're working with Reef Works in the area. We did a seismic test out in Grant Township this past April. Actually, February through April. We weren't on the county's property. We would have came to you for a permit for that to do the seismic, but with today's 3D seismic, you get a much better view of just, it's not the properties you're on, but the outlier properties. So we received the data back, and the company wants to lease the county for oil and gas exploration. I believe there's 15 acres the county owns, surface and minerals, and then another 5, I don't know if it's 5 acres. It could be 2.5, it totals 20 acres. Because he owns some minerals under the small piece next to you in section 14. I have a map if you'd like it. So yeah, I'm here to answer any questions anyone has.
I'm gonna make a comment right away if it's okay. This is out at legal counsel, so we're not ready to move forward with this until we hear back from
I got it.
legal counsel, so.
So
There's questions, we can give questions, but we
Sure.
don't have, it hasn't been reviewed by the legal folks, so.
So this is a lease for you to explore physically on the property.
yeah, and it doesn't necessarily, a well doesn't necessarily have to go on you in order to be part of the unit. Units are 80 acres up to 160, maybe even 640. Usually the oil wells, which is would be, are 80 acres. You might make them 120. So it doesn't necessarily, the well have to be on you to be part of the pool or unit.
Is this oil, gas?
Oil.
Well, black gold, Texas tea. Hey, Jim.
Yeah, you probably watched Beverly Hillbillies in your day.
So-
maybe.
I'm assuming you believe something is there.
Yeah.
If you're going this far.
Correct.
But are you certain?
You're never 100% certain with seismic. It's all about your geologists, what they're seeing. Today's 3D is much better. I can almost read it. I've read old 3D stuff where it looks like gibberish. You have no idea what's going on. So you get a better view of it today. In Michigan, you'll see it's not like natural gas where you just see a blanket area. You have small pools, reefs, what they're called, okay? So you could have a reef half-mile up and then nothing, and then another little reef. And one important, especially with this, the rock this oil's in, it's so porous, the rock, there's no fracking. That's because if you frack that rock, guess what's underneath that? Water.
Yeah.
And that's all you're gonna be humping. Typically, the gas wells are the ones you frack. They're in a tighter container, so to speak.
With the fact that we can't move tonight, do you have a timetable? I mean, I would suspect by our next meeting, we'd have.
Yeah, and I wasn't sure with the holidays if you guys even had one. And Jay was fortunate enough to hook me up and just say, get on the agenda tonight and move forward. There's not a real timetable. This project's been going on for a while. Okay, so there's not like a drop dead date.
Okay.
As of right now.
I can't imagine why we wouldn't have a
And-
opinion back by.
It's the
Tuesday before?
21st.
21st, yeah.
Right.
So,
It's on Tuesday because of the Thanksgiving.
Nice.
Oh, it's on the 20, okay.
Yeah.
So it's with legal. I deal with a lot of attorneys. At some point in time, would I be able to talk with them?
I don't know why we couldn't.
Yeah.
I mean, if questions arise or if they have something, so we can kind of.
You can direct that towards Dan, Dan can direct you to the right person.
What exactly is the agreement, just to go and put a well there, or does the agreement discuss things like our share of?
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll
Okay, so it's
discuss
the whole
all
thing,
that.
not
It's
just
the whole
permission
thing.
to enter, but.
Yeah, and again, we might not ever even be on the property.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't know.
They just
right.
calculate a percentage of what they
Yeah.
pull up as
So
a part of
that's
the.
what you're agreeing to.
And what we have, I can tell you on the lease, the state of Michigan gets 1/6 royalty.
Mhm.
You're a government entity as well, so we put down 1/6. As a state, you have to give them 1/6. They make the rules.
Yeah, I thought it was
They
one
give the
eight.
permits out.
I thought it was 1/8, but I could be mistaken.
It will say that in the body of the lease. These are what's called producer 88 leases. They've been around forever. You don't touch the body of the lease. It's hard for the lease analysts to pick out stuff. So at the end of the lease, you put and hold all the clauses,
Got it.
and then they can pull that out. So you're correct, in the body of the lease, it does say an eighth, which is 12.5%.
Got it.
So 1/6, really nice
Right.
royalty. And then you have the bonus money for signing per acre. It's a 3-year lease.
Are you doing exploration on the adjoining properties as well, or just on this 20-acre parcel that's ours?
Oh, we have a well already planned to the north,
Oh, okay,
actually 2.
okay. So you did the exploration, found out that it.
Yeah,
was
we did the
viable.
3D. They've looked at the data,
Okay, good.
found out what they need, because that area has been prolific producing area.
Okay.
But some people will go in, companies with no seismic, they're relying on the old 3D seismic, and they might just miss it by 100 feet. Getting into that region. It's real touchy and close to get in there. So that's why you spend $1 million+ for these seismic tests.
Well, being a governmental agency, we want to make sure everything's correct.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And there's some flexibility. This is a development lease, which a well could go on you. But we can talk, we could possibly make it a non-development. Because those meetings I've been in, we probably come from the west and going.
Was this property earmarked for anything?
Yeah, it's where you dispose of, I think, I was talking with Jay, not this, I shouldn't use the word dispose, but it's kind of a collection area, so to speak.
We were gonna put deer there,
Production thing.
right? It's a
It's a production center.
It's a split. One side we do sand production, other side we remove stones.
Yeah.
We take some extra money as well.
So this is not going
Is-
to interfere with our operation.
Getting off on different points, that's why I see no gravel pits out there, signs that says no gravel pit.
Do you have an estimate, if you do this, how long this site would be active, how many years?
Well, just to the north of this property, Savoy drilled a well. I believe that was early 80s. Apollo's still operating that well right now.
Yeah, those are back.
Now, that can mean the well's shut in. I haven't been by there and haven't looked at the production reports or anything on that well. Oil wells typically, compared to gas wells, natural gas wells, you make your money faster, quicker, and then it's over and done. But one thing you do when you go down in the, go to the deepest, you have layers. Before you shut that well and plug it, you try to tap into the others as you're coming up and perforate those as well. So that's why some wells, they might have only produced 15 years, but then they were trying to get more out of it. And whether they succeed or not, would determine the length. Natural gas wells last a long time. You have some of the Antrim wells.
Continues to seep out. I mean, say, yeah.
Those Antrim wells are still producing. They're probably 50 years old. Yeah, so
The well on our property is still producing,
how old is that one?
even though it's old, even though we don't have any rights to it apparently.
Well, that's what you find up here.
Yeah.
And the northern trend is people retain minerals when they sell the property.
Or the state does.
Well, the state,
From
and
the
there's a lot,
early 1900s, the state, when they deeded out, they reserved those.
the state owns a lot of property up here, a lot of minerals. The state does, the dormancy law doesn't apply to the state like it does for you and I.
Oh, that's
So-
nice.
We wait for the attorneys.
Yeah.
So it doesn't revert back from the state then?
Never, never. Now,
I know, right?
the state will let you buy back your minerals. They don't gouge you either. I've helped some people in Ogama. You get on the DNR website, it's kind of hard to navigate, but you can get in there. If it's producing, they're not selling it back to you. Obviously.
Well, yeah, they've got a great big fund that's been approved to be bigger.
Right, right, but they will sell them back
Yeah.
at a reasonable price.
Interesting. All right, well, thanks.
Well, thank you for taking the time and, I guess, Dan, can I get your contact info?
Yeah. You have a card or? Be right on the desk right out here too.
Oh, some out on the desk.
Thanks, Randy.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Bill.
Tonight is gonna be the Bill and Todd show on Todd Alon. Todd's the EA expert and he's better at talking about the environmental assessment than I am. Thanks for letting me come back about this area. I thought there'd be snow on the ground. I really did. Next week. Next week. Well, we've kind of hit a bump in the road, as you know. I kind of want to give you an update and then tell you where we think we should be going, like our next steps and how to break the bubble, basically, from our opinions. So the update on our scoped environmental assessment basically is MDOT has basically told us that we can't move forward we can't initiate the environmental assessment formally unless there's money identified for the next phase, which would be design. That's basically where we're at. So essentially we've kind of halted, our EA activities. We've done quite a few activities already. As you noticed, we've done a lot of alignment work and we've done a lot of other EA activities, but we haven't formally moved into the initiation phase of the project, which MDOT won't allow it until we have an approved funding plan and have money in place.
Cart before the horse.
Kind of, yeah. So what I want to do is that's basically the update. We're kind of in a holding pattern on the EA. We've come a long way, and as you see, we've done some things as you see in the document I had for you. We've divided it up. We have a phasing plan. We've identified a schedule based on, if we started the EA, initiated the EA next month, and the 12-month process started. We've spoken out costs, anticipated costs for both construction and PE. You have the PE costs in front of you. Basically what we've done, we're kind of on hold. To move forward, there's several things that we think that the Road Commission needs to move forward with. MDOT basically is your big hurdle right now, getting MDOT to buy into the need for this project. They haven't done that yet. They listened to you, but as far as getting upper management to push down and say, yeah, this is important, let's support the project, they haven't done that yet. And we really believe that the Road Commission legislators need to get with the region people and then director, possibly the governor, to indicate how important this is. And in order to do that, we've been talking about a coalition. We really believe that coalition of local local area businesses, public safety agencies, business organizations, DDA, schools, the MPO, all of the, I've got a whole list of things of coalition members, so suggested coalition members. If you go to MDOT with a coalition, everybody is supporting this project. It becomes more viable to them. We really need, that needs to happen. The,
Bill, just real quick, I reached out to Bill, or he reached out to me, and then once we talked, I asked him, to come to this meeting today. When we talked a little bit about the state, you said that we were looking at probably a 20% match on our side.
that's the construction. You need 20% of
So we
construction.
need 20% of the total construction cost.
Right. The construction cost.
Plus, we need to come up with the right of way money and also money for the studies.
That's why I did ask him to, we totaled this up here, so I could see each phase, what it would cost. And then on the second page, is the total cost of the project. Again, this is a draft. This is kind of the next steps of where we would be at. I want everything transparent of where we're at for each phase and the total cost.
So, go ahead. So the total cost of construction cost is the 239 million
Yeah,
on the low end?
we've given you a low end and a high end.
Okay, so that's just the construction cost. Does
No,
that?
that's, that 239 is inclusive of PE and right away. It even includes your NEPA costs, which you've already spent.
Okay, so the construction cost, it says what are the actual construction costs? Where do I find that?
The actual cost of the bridge.
Yeah, I mean, on the last
Not the whole
page of this whole
project, 'cause this is the
handout.
whole project.
According to this,
It's-
that's a way it's separate from those other. costs.
Right, it's the way I'm reading it, there's a heading of construction cost and then below it is phase 3, 4, 5, 6. And then,
Those are construction costs.
yeah,
But
so,
that's the whole project.
Yes.
Well-
Not
Oh, I'm sorry, that 239 includes PE.
okay, so subtract 17,110,000.
Yes, and that would be the construction cost.
At the lower.
At the lower,
end.
right.
for the entire project.
220 at the lower.
So whatever that cost is, we have a 20% match for that cost. Okay. I mean, I have other questions, but I'll let you finish your presentation.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to move forward into what other things you need to do. Getting MDOT on board is a big thing. The coalition is another big thing.
Can I ask a question on the coalition?
Yes, absolutely.
My understanding, we were gonna receive a template of work that we could take to other counties.
I can certainly do that.
Okay. Because I was at a conference this last week and I was talking to other counties, road commissions in other counties, so somewhere that might have gotten lost. So we have something to actually take with us when we go to the surrounding counties.
And when does that Grandview construction start?
I think it's underway. I
Okay.
don't think the active construction happens.
Yeah, okay. Well, the reason that'd be a great time to invite the governor to town for something.
The idea is, that this boardman, this crossing is gonna take traffic off of.
Yeah, right. Well, and South Airport's gonna be impassable. I mean, it's gonna be an absolute nightmare.
The idea is, and that's the biggest issue that I see, for MDOT to join with you and say, look what we can do for the region. Look what we can do for you, Traverse City. Look what we can do to help you do what you want to do.
Yeah, because they still have stuff that goes through us. I mean,
Road commission wise, they really want the bridge. I don't know about the counties themselves.
In 2014 or 15, I can't remember. When I was a county commissioner, we passed a unanimous resolution in support of the Hartman-Hammond Bridge, but at the same time, there was a group of us that visited all of the townships and villages in the county, some neighboring areas. These exist. They're resolutions that were passed by their board of support for the idea of this crossing, specifically at Hartman-Hammond, but I think we did use the word east-west mobility corridor, something along those lines. I think some people put Hartman-Hammond, some didn't. So there was this concept already that started, about 10 years ago. I was involved in it. To kind of do exactly what you're saying, it was for MDOT. Patty was the person at the time, and we had what we called TC Talis back then, that's now TTCI. And it was our thinking back then that if we could show kind of a coalition of the local municipalities, which of course represent everybody in their townships or village or city, that kind of would be beneficial at the time. As you know, some other things derailed it, but that exists right now, and it was not a hard process. It was going to a board meeting once a month or twice a month and presenting the idea of the crossing. We had help from our friends in public safety that would speak to the issues of crossing the river. So, you know, there was something like this in the past. I don't think you're far off on the idea, but it's just a grander scope and a better, more laid out plans. It was just kind of a rogue group of a few of us that did this, but it worked. And these municipalities.
You got a lot done, don't you?
It birthed the limited access mobility resolution between East Bay and Garfield. It was kind of the idea, and then we started talking about, yeah. So, there is stuff there historically, and it was very well received, and it was a good, positive experience.
And then these two going back will be good, but if we have a whole new.
Well, we don't want old, but I'm just saying it was a process that was positive and well received.
And we are gonna expand it to the surrounding counties.
I think we did Elmwood and I think if I remember right.
So Bill, what I am more interested in hearing, because what I took from your introduction was that we're at a standstill because MDOT wants us to identify funding for the next phase, which is the design phase, correct?
Yeah. Or for,
Oh, okay,
Just
so,
the next phase.
that's right.
right,
They need a funding plan.
Right.
Which identifies the whole, how are you gonna get there? Obviously, you don't have to have it all funded, but what's the plan on trying to get it all?
the money
Yeah.
to build this bridge.
Right.
Not just all of it, not
Yeah.
just, so, I
But
mean.
they won't move forward unless they see
A funding
money.
plan. Right,
They really want us to, they want money identified
right.
for the next phase before they allow us to initiate the EA.
So that's what I want to get first as clarification for, is that they want to see money identified, not just for this next phase, but for the entire project.
That's the plan, the funding plan.
Right.
They won't move into the EA without,
The
or
funding plan,
without a funding plan, but they also want to see money for the next.
next phase. Okay, so two components part of that. So, great, we have to have coalition resolutions. Awesome, we should have that. I'm not sure how that's connected to the funding plan, so I really want to hear how that helps us develop a funding plan as to identifying money sources.
Didn't we have a funding?
Yeah, we actually, Todd can probably speak to that a little bit.
So why is that not being accepted by the MDOT?
Well, they did. They reviewed the funding plan, provided comment. We've adjusted the funding plan to reflect their comments. We went through it grant by grant
Right.
and did some adjustments based on what they said. And it's ready. The funding plan is really ready to go back to you guys and to MDOT, but it's just a plan. It lays out the challenges of grants, which ones are good fits. It lays out, local funding challenges.
Mhm.
It really just gives them what they want, but correct. But it's like, but where's the money? That's where we're headed. So the funding plan, you guys have paid for, and we have it virtually done. And MDOT's reviewed it.
Okay, so the funding plan then is not a problem because we have a funding plan that has been reviewed by MDOT. The issue is actually identifying sources of money.
Well, the other terminology they use is fiscally constrained.
Fiscally,
Constrained, you have that money. So what we're trying to figure out is, Bill said, is there's no way this project's gonna get all the money for it anytime soon.
right,
It's gonna be pieces.
Right.
So what we asked, we were getting ready to get to this, I'm sure,
yeah,
was what we asked, we had our last call with MDOT, which is their environmental folks, that are we check in with them once a month. We were trying to strategize how to open the gate, how to get through this dumb gate, right? Since we now have the funding plan outlines phasing, and breaks down phasing by PE and construction. That's what a lot of this work's been going on. Well, they open the gate if we can demonstrate that the road commission has the dollars set aside for the PD part of the first phase, which is the Hammond Keystone intersection and approach.
So the project is phase 3.
Phase 3 is what it's called in the
Right.
project.
Right.
So if we can show that, does that open the gate?
Okay.
Because what they keep saying to us is, show that you have the next phase ready to go.
Sure.
So we're like, well, that seems to be the next phase. It's also probably the cheapest of all the phases, right? And Janet said, put that in writing and bring it to us. We'll have to run it past federal highway.
That's basically where we're at as far as update. That came out of our last call with MDOT. And she didn't seem like she was opposed to it. To me, it makes sense. They won't issue a FONSI unless the money is in place for that next phase.
Okay.
And so,
How much are we talking about?
well, the first phase of is
I just want to get to.
somewhere between 570 and $1 million. Now, that seems like a big range, but if you look at where these numbers came from, we used on the high end, which is basically the number that came out in the public, almost $300 million. That number came out of empirical data that Federal Highways puts together for a lot of projects around the country. We have to, and we use a percentage of construction costs to get to that PE number. That's why there's such a big range. The low range is more local, our local experience on projects we've done for you and projects we've done, similar projects around the area. So, I have more faith in that low end number than I do in that high end number. It's not going to be $1 million. $1.020 million. It's not going to be that way. It's going to be somewhere in the $500,000 to $700,000 range.
We can identify 750,000. You think MDOT would accept that as?
Well, that's what we want to ask.
Yeah, we think it's prudent in this letter that Todd mentioned is to ask that question formally. And if they give us a yes, if they say, yes, we'll do that, then we initiate the EA, we finish our job, we get a FONSI, we start designing. Meanwhile, we're continuing to go for additional funding. Possibly that millage that you were talking about is a potential funding source for next phases or local matched. We continue
We're in
to,
the situation for each phase.
pardon me?
Each phase, we're gonna run in the same situation. We need to
No,
identify-
once we get the environmental assessment, we don't have to, as long as there's a time period that an EEA is acceptable, it's 3 years or something.
Okay.
I forget exactly. If things are moving, you don't have to go back and reevaluate, and you can just keep going.
So funding the next phase 3, the end of phase 3, then we have a up to 3-year period based on those.
Once you start moving the job, you're done. You're good.
Yeah, as long as
This is a sit and stops and stuff.
Right.
you have to pay attention to major changes in the environment. If somebody builds a big building that affects something there's a lot of issues that you got to pay attention to as you move forward. But at some point, if nothing happens for a certain amount of years, you have to do a formal reevaluation of the environmental assessment.
So do you need approval, the board approval to send this letter to MDOT regarding inquiry? So is that some inquiring about whether that would be acceptable to them?
Does this letter have to be from the board, or can it be from Dan, the manager?
Road commission.
Yeah.
I would think it comes from the road commission versus of each other.
Yeah, I figured it has to come from the road commission,
But
but
it have some type of.
does it have to have a board resolution?
I doubt it has to have a resolution.
I didn't
It just
think
has
so.
to have that.
That's so Dan.
I mean, Dan wrote it, said we do have this money set aside, or can come up with that funding is identified, that will come from blank.
And if it was on the high end, that would satisfy their.
That should satisfy, now whether they'll give you the green light.
Right, so the main item for this board to focus upon is identifying roughly, taking Joe's number, $750,000, that's to $1 million that we can actually pinpoint so that it can go in the letter to the state, describing that availability of that money and asking them if that is satisfactory to them in order for the EA phase to begin. Is that a correct understanding? Okay,
Forward then.
so then this is our job to figure out where that money is gonna come from. I mean, that's the priority, in my opinion.
Would it be prudent for us to also simultaneously start considering and identifying areas where right of way is going to be necessary? I mean,
I think we have to wait till, that's what the EA does. We have to wait till that's done.
You can't start buying right away or acquiring right away before the environmental assessment is approved.
Doesn't that identify it as you're doing the?
We've already identified it to a point.
Yeah, we know what properties are needed from, we're 95% sure of every
I'm
parcel.
just concerned about speculation and.
Yeah,
you
when
know.
projects like this get out, especially when it takes a long time, that does happen.
We were headed towards a public meeting as part of the EA, right before we kind of hit the big slowdown. But the concern was, as soon as you have that public meeting, that meeting's gonna have maps that show we're gonna be 10 feet of your yard or right through your front living room. And once you do that, the cat's out of the bag.
That's out.
And if something doesn't happen, you guys might have some issues with damages, that some people, I can't sell my property now, you guys are coming through my front yard. And it puts a lot of risk into the mix. So I don't think you wanna have that public meeting until we get that gate open into the EA. Right.
So as a board, we can direct Dan and crew to find the $1 million in the budget. We're gonna be back here in about 3 weeks.
We can have a letter ready for Dan's signature. Then,
Is
Do
that,
we need, oh yeah, well,
the phasing plan that you're looking at, that's part of it too. The phasing and the scheduling plan, that's part of that. They wanted to see how we were breaking it up, and I think the dollars probably would also be part of that.
delay wouldn't be advantageous to the project then if we go down here to see if we can find it.
I think you need to. I
Okay.
think you need to.
Is it?
We need a budget workshop.
We're talking about this year's budget? No, we're not
Just
talking.
budget in general.
In budget, but what we're gonna develop next year's budget.
Yeah.
We've been way too hands-off.
But they want the $1 million out of this year's budget. Is that what you're saying?
I think a commitment,
Commitment that.
if you can show the commitment in
Right.
next year's budget, because
Next
this,
year's budget.
yeah, because the
That's what I
EA, even if we started in November, restarted in November and our 12-month clock
Okay,
starts, it wouldn't be till mid-year next year that we
Okay.
finish it anyway.
so it's just part of our budget process that we're going through. I was thinking we were going backwards to identify before
So
the
we're
end of
gonna
the year.
identify for this particular.
A set aside for this, to show that the money is there if needed.
We're not sure what that requirement is either. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
If the letter comes right now is that Grand Traverse County Road Commission is committed to paying for that out of blank funds, if you kind of, just a touch spray.
Yeah.
That letter can go in and gives Janet something to run it by. You know
Okay,
what I'm saying? And if they come back and say, well, how do we know you got the money?
Right.
Cross that bridge when we get there.
right.
That's what I was sort of hoping.
right, my understanding from the way you explained it to me is that we just have to show them in black and white on, that these are specific sources of fund or funding, or sources of funding for this almost $1 million. Whether it's in the current budget or, we are in.
I don't think they're gonna ask for a
We're
bank
gonna be in
statement.
November next year, or next week, so that's not really, we
I
are,
think a formal commitment from the board
right,
for
Okay,
identifying the source of the money.
Right.
Source of the money.
That would be sufficient, I think, at least for us to ask. And
they really
I feel
don't care
comfortable
where the
where
money
it comes from. Pardon me?
They really don't care where the money.
No, they don't,
They
no.
should.
Yeah.
And there's a history here. I mean, we've done, other local agencies have had the same problem, not at the magnitude, but where they just say, we don't have the whole money set aside, but we want to move it forward, and then that's given them the money. So there's a history here that we can lean on and say, if you did it here.
Yeah.
Do it here.
I just have a question for our road manager as to whether you have the ability right now to work on identifying these sources and where we are in the budget process and those type of things, that we can get that kind of information to OHM for purposes of that letter. Is that, do you have the resources to get that done?
Just now in the beginning stages of looking at the budget, so we are actually a little behind where we normally are. So I think we would need to work with the Raymond Group, or hopefully we find an accountant soon to help us identify these costs.
Okay.
We can make that happen. Yeah. We will make that. Okay, anything else? Want to keep going? Sorry.
I got a couple more.
Lots of questions.
I have a couple
Sorry.
more bullets in here, if you want to hear about this. The letter that we prepared to say what your next steps should be, identify the MPO is something you guys are aggressively working at that. I just wanted to reiterate that. Keep going. That MPO is necessary. You got to get this project on the long range plan. It has to be part of the TIP and it to be funded. And if it's on the TIP, there has to be some money. We talked about with your previous administration, we talked about hiring a PR firm. Now, PR firm could help you with the coalition group that needs to be done. We think that'd be somebody that knows the area, somebody that knows all the people. I think would be valuable if you can find a way to hire a PR firm. Have we provided, we gathered some names. I don't remember if we got them to
Recommendations.
Did you resend those to?
Absolutely.
Do you have questions about
Yeah,
this?
help me understand how the PR component fits into the MDOT approval.
Yeah.
Yes, you may.
Please. So when you're dealing with, again, you had the night with all the opposition, right? So we knew at the onset, you're gonna have opposition. We've been told, and I believe this, that it's loud, but it's, I don't know if it's fact. That's one reason your letters of support are so critical. MDOT and Federal Highway wants to know, what's the sentiment? What do you do?
We sent all of the resolutions to MDOT back then.
Right.
And they told us that that was critical to getting over the roadblock that we had hit them. And I believe it did. We just had a different issue that came up.
Right, 'cause they're looking-
Anytime we get close, they're gonna be here.
Correct. And they're organized to a point.
I mean, they thought we were close.
I thought-
We really didn't have anything, we weren't even gonna be talking about it. But they heard me say something about 300,000, you know, and they took that as their cue that we're gonna be talking about it. And
Right.
getting the bridge underway, you know, clearly.
So the support is actually a criteria in the MDOT review process.
Yes, well, this is just
Okay,
is correct, is they will
That's what
ask,
was missing.
they want to see is there broad support for the project, especially if you're able to.
So
They wanna see
because it failed last time, and we knew that, we knew what went wrong the last time. A group of us had started that process back in 2013, 2014, knowing that we needed these resolutions of support, this coalition, to even start everything back up again. This was prior to it coming back to the road commission to open it up. And that's what we were told, it was required by MDOT to see a broad coalition of different parts of your area, whoever's gonna be using it. And we did it pretty rapidly. I think we succeeded in about 3 months with all of it. And it went rather well. It was on a much smaller scale than what we're talking about, but.
I'll just say this about PR people, okay? So several years ago, Beta wanted to expand their millage a little bit, and they hired a PR person, and you know what it did to me? It made me even dislike them more. It's like, oh, you're spending more money to try to get more money from us. I mean, you know, I mean, you know, to me, that's.
So let's put this into a context then. I mean, we've been kind of functioning a little bit in this role, but winning the public debate is part of this process at this magnitude. I believe, I've been in some high projects, high profile projects in the state. If you don't win that, they've already sent a letter down to Brad Weaver. You saw that, right? I was copied on that letter. So after they came that night and Kelly did the big thing, they also sent a letter signed by Hans, the groundwork. And that all went down.
And they,
Janet's getting that and putting it in the file.
they have friendly ears down there right now. I mean, that's.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so what I'm saying is they're making their case and making it known to MDOT that your voice is not as loud as you think it is. And that their voice is speaking for the broader public. How do you get over that hurdle? I mean, you guys.
So I was not aware that it's actually a criteria in the MDOT approval process. I was not aware of that. And if you're telling me that that is actually a part of a factor that MDOT actually objectively considers in deciding,
MDOT wants to know that that it's supported. They want to know if there's any controversy.
I mean, is it weighted compared to some of the other factors?
That's a difficult.
Yes, controversy is a consideration or under environmental assessment.
Yeah, that's why the environmental assessment permits for things people don't want in their backyards, the comment periods are open so long. Because they wait to see if anybody, and the more, unless it's really popular in Lansing, unless somebody in Lansing really says, Traverse City really needs that bridge and we're gonna overlook that. I believe the state sentiment is, we were elected by people not in Traverse City, Michigan. And we're gonna focus on people who are not in Traverse City, Michigan, because that's where our support comes from. So we have to go over, that is the hurdle to overcome.
And just because there's controversy in opposition does not mean that you don't go forward. I mean, I did a Fort Huron job with Blue Water for 9 years and the city leveraged everything they could. And guess what's getting built now? The greater good is still your guys' charge, right?
Yeah.
And that's
We're
what
about
they
to
had
find
work.
out, we're about to find out next year how much this bridge is actually needed.
Yeah, you're right.
Because it's out there.
It's gonna be a beautiful
parking
thing.
lot.
Right. Well,
We'll be asking for modified traffic studies by then.
yeah. Well, on the coalition, I thought we did focus groups when we were doing the town. The strongest, when we started this, I really thought this was like, this is a hard thing to sell. You really do. But when I talked to Mr. Bird in your sheriff department for his ambulance, that's powerful stuff. So in NEPA and environmental and trying to win that purpose and need, that's strong arguments.
Those are the same people that joined us the last round.
Yeah. So I don't know the PR firm. We just think you need some guidance, I guess, that kind of, we were expecting a while back. A letter to the editor that really lays out.
The issue is the people are hearing what do I want to say, the vocal minority. If they're only hearing the vocal minority, and especially if the resource agencies and MDOT and the people that are approving things are only hearing the vocal minority, then you got a longer way to go. They need to be hearing from you guys. They need to be hearing the benefits. This coalition being out there will do
support from the sheriff's department, Mr. Bird, all that, can really help coalesce the public sentiment that's not in that camp of travelers.
Communication matters. We are not good at it and we need help with it.
Well, that was the thought pattern when we suggested.
But the question on that then is, when we talked to Brad, do you need a local PR firm that knows the local politics? Or do you need someone based out of Lansing that can help do the halls of, the governor's thing? Something to think about.
Okay.
Cool. Thanks.
Let me look at my bullet here and see if I got it. Yeah, I got it. Is there any questions? I hope this.
I think we asked you enough questions.
Well, any additional questions? I hear you always have something for me.
No, but
So-
I asked what
So-
I needed to know right now. Thank you though.
So our task before our next meeting is to identify the money. That's the first pass.
We will,
We're gonna get some sort of a template.
yes, I'll work on that. I'll work on
Back to
a
us,
template for,
And then we'll set up a.
we're talking about resolutions from trustees of townships
did.
and county schools.
And we're doing a letter draft.
Yes.
Yes, that's,
That's hard to do this, right?
And we have to consider a PR, which you're gonna email.
Yeah, we
Suggestions.
pulled up a few firms and, yeah, we'll get them to you.
now we can address, those two issues, the funding source and the PR source, maybe at the next
Yeah.
meeting.
Yeah, I'm hoping to have that done next time. Instead of trying to find it, re-email it.
Well, thanks again for
Thank you.
Yeah,
Bill.
listen, thanks.
Kids hang around? Or anything?
It's up to you.
I don't think
Don't you guys have a long drive?
I just have a breakfast.
Oh, yeah. I know. But-
staying in the Cambria.
Nice, okay, well then, yes, you have to stay the whole time.
If we have-
Go get dinner, you guys.
Was that bourbon 45 and has good steaks? Whatever.
Call me tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank
All right.
you. Thank you. I know.
Now, can we do the consent calendar?
Great.
Always good to see you.
The consent calendar is used to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together without discussion. Request by any person present to remove any item from the consent calendar for full discussion, as agenda items are automatically respected. The action noted in parentheses for all items remaining on the consent calendar are approved by a single commission action adopting the consent calendar. The manager recommends the following items be adopted. 1, minutes. 2, payroll. 3, accounts payable. 4, financial reports. And 5, communications.
Does anybody have something they want to remove?
I don't want anything removed. However, in reviewing the meeting minutes from October 5th, it's on page 22 of the packet, that's on the PDF. There are just some 2 or 3 just grammatical mistakes, which I think we need to correct, considering all these minutes then go to the County Board of Commissioners, and some commissioners review them pretty closely. So I just want to point those out, and if we can make those corrections, that would be awesome. So on the page 3 of the meeting minutes for October 5th, oh boy, 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5th paragraph, where it says, where it talks about move Kaczynski's tendered his resignation for position of managing director of the road commission, and move that the board accept it effective immediately, not effectively immediately. And then further down, after roll call vote, it said motion by Underwood, seconded by Gilman, that the board appreciates Kaczynski's service to the road commission in his capacity as managing director and in recognition of his service, the board presents. So those need to be corrected.
Okay.
So with those corrections, I move to accept the consent.
Support. Moved and seconded. Kylie?
Evans?
Yes.
Gordon?
Yes.
Lehman?
Yes.
Gilman?
Yes.
Underwood?
Yes.
So we did have a chance to make it around to at least one township meeting. There's been a few other meetings, so there's
I'm sure you've been doing a lot.
other meetings. I was on my way to another township meeting. Unfortunately, tonight we had the accident with the train,
Oh, yeah.
which looks like that is gonna be a total loss, unfortunately. So
Train.
the GMT terrain.
Oh, terrain, okay. Okay, I was like, train. I was like, when did that happen? No one got hit by a train. Okay, yeah.
Was able to attend the winter conference up in Bel Air for 2 days. That was a great conference. There's a few tips, and a lot of people are doing studies now of trying to get away from the granular material usage of the salt. They've had several studies going to like a liquid application. So they did a lot of demonstrations on that. They also did a lot with sleep. talk about sleep patterns, especially for drivers that, work random hours and different things. So, something they're definitely bringing attention to. That was definitely good. We have been moving forward with the paint and plow project, which is, that's great. Reaching out to local schools and actually let them see how big these plows are and give them some knowledge there. And we're excited to, some of their school events, go ahead and drop those back off. Let them see, everything's going pretty good in the shop. We're moving forward there, getting ready for winter. November 1st is always our deadline to have the fleet 100% ready. So we're almost there. We got a couple trucks we're still calibrating. So we actually are, tracking the exact material that we're putting out. But we're going to hit our deadline there and our goal. We're going to start moving forward for the crew to get out and get on their runs, start limiting, start, putting delineators off, making sure stop signs are clear. Let some of our newer drivers actually get a good feel for their route so they know that they're going to where they're at. So, I have a couple other things, but I think those will probably tie into my project.
Any questions?
Just curious, being thrown into the position quite literally, I mean, if you had to take a snapshot, you say, where are areas where you need help immediately? What is it that stands out to you?
When I became the superintendent, I kept fleet facilities position. Now as interim manager, I have 3 roles. So wearing all 3 hats is definitely, I'm lacking a little bit in getting out invoicing. This is my biggest thing. And processing. Heather's been trying to help as much as possible. It's been a great help there. But there's a stack like this that comes through every couple days that, physically writing POs, processing, doing the backlog of that. So that's probably my biggest holdup right now. So.
And that brings us back to one of our biggest needs, which is the finance person. Have you reached out? My understanding you were going to talk to.
I have extended an offer to an accountant. Waiting to hear back from. Hopefully we hear back soon.
Because I have no problem if we have to do something on a contract basis, per hour if necessary, but we need to get you some help so that you can get that stack. Because things happen and then all of a sudden that stacks and go to there. So whatever you need, if we need to stop and have an emergency meeting or something to do it, let's talk about it. But get a proposal if you can, because we've already approved to have a search for a finance person. Let's get a proposal, let's talk about it, and let's make it happen.
I'm hoping the proposal that we put out to the person for the accounting position, hopefully we hear back from them next week. And we can make a decision if they're going to move forward in that direction or, we need to.
And Dan and I have talked a little bit about his 3-role hat, and I've encouraged him to do what he needs to do to change the load, the work schedule.
The staff's been great. They've all been very supportive and they've all, rallied, and I thank them all for their help. Everybody's definitely good, helping carry the pail of water for sure. So I'm very thankful for the staff.
I think I want to echo Jason's point, especially just the discussion we had just now about the budget and identifying, the sources of funding. And these are complicated financial issues, and we actually need a qualified finance director, whatever that person is, to help us guide through that process, setting up the budget for next year, especially with such a big project coming on. So absolutely, I also support whatever we need to do to make that happen in the very short term, hopefully by next week, like we projected. And secondly, as far as I'm concerned, even though you are the interim road manager, you are our road manager, so you have authority, you have the support, and you have the authority to make the necessary personnel decisions that you need to make for for the organization to work effectively and for you to be successful in the role. So you should do and what needs to be done to make that happen, and I'm sure the board will support you in that. I do have a few questions for engineer once you are done.
Well, I just have 2 things. One, thank you for the hours. That's one of the biggest complaints we got. I don't know if anybody noticed, but the call.
That's what I was gonna.
Oh,
yeah,
the
yeah,
hours
yeah.
of the business.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I
Yeah.
was like, wait a minute, what are we?
Hours of business. And then I have a question as I'm reading through the reports, and that has to do with City Works. And I'm gonna be just as blunt as I can be. Is that the best program for us to be using?
I was getting into that a little bit during
Okay.
the projects, but we can do it right now.
That's okay. If you're gonna do it projects, that's fine, because
We can do it right now. That's something we're definitely looking into, working with Larry quite a bit right now. There's other programs out there, and we actually saw a few, at the winter conference that seem to be working better than what the third direction of City Works is. We need to either scale City Works down to something that works for us, or start to investigate going in a different direction. I would say organization wide, that's where seeing different issues.
well, I'm asking that because I've heard that it doesn't necessarily integrate the best as we thought it would.
I'd have to agree with that. We're looking at some options. Larry's been working on it. It's called Quick Capture. Currently now we're going out and doing like a pothole. You have to load it up. The guys are actually counting how many scoops of material they're putting in each individual hole. They're entering that and they have to upload that. It's quite a lengthy process, and I would say it can reduce productivity almost by 50%.
And that's through City Works.
That's through City Works. This Quick Capture.
The technology is reducing our productivity.
That's not good.
Let's be plain about that.
The Quick Capture option that I work with Larry on, you'd be able to just take a picture of the pothole off that in your GPS location, or just look up that same data. I know personally for myself, there's 4 scoops or 5 scoops in that hole. We're just trying to identify that, hey, this section of road is getting a lot of, repair work done. We need to go out and identify what's going on. Is it time for a crush and shape? Is it wedge? Something like that over an area that does not receive as much. And the Transmaps, I think, is also going to identify that. Larry's got a little presentation later on.
Sorry, didn't mean to jump the gun, but as reading your report here.
First of all, I'm really happy to see that we have moved away from an automated phone system. That is really positive news. I'm really happy that it's actually going to be a live person answering calls. That's how it should be. And so people shouldn't be calling the road commission and getting the runaround by having to press like different buttons and getting one automated message after another. So that is, I'm really glad to see that change. A few questions from the engineering report. Under the state and federal aid projects, just quickly, the first 2 fiscal year 2022 rural and urban projects, just quickly, what kind of projects are those? Are those chip and seal, HMA overlay? What are those?
I'm not fully up to speed on those, so I'm going to defer to Wayne.
Do we have a copy of that, Andy? Thank you. All right, let's see here. So under the, okay. So Voice Road was a resurfacing project, crack seal, chip seal inner layer, and then HMA, and then also doing paved shoulders onto that project.
Okay. So it's completed, I'm assuming.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
it was
yep.
complete, yeah.
It's unfortunately with federal aid projects, there's a lengthy closeout period. And so I until we get them completely closed out, I kind of keep mine here just so that you're aware of the work that we're doing. The Veterans Drive was a mill and fill project. That's that next one there. And we went from South Airport Road north to the city limits with that one there. But it was a mill again, the chip seal inner layer, and then new HMA on top.
Okay.
On that. Okay. Let's see.
Yeah, those are the 2.
Just those 2.
Yeah, and then I'm assuming under the Garfield Potter Hope Road roundabout, I'm assuming that completion date is September 19th of 2024, not 2026. Or am I, because in the previous, last month's report, it was 2024.
Yeah, which was incorrect. I apologize on that. What it is there is with the plantings, there's 2 successive years after you do the construction of watering and cultivation. And so there's a warranty on the shrubbery, if you will, that goes in there. So the bulk of all the work that you're gonna see is gonna be done in the first year. And then just the 2 following years, there's a couple different, there's a spring and a fall watering and cultivation that they do out there.
Maybe we need to find a way to trigger those to us to say, this is the completion and this is
Yeah,
follow-up detail
right, yeah,
for us
yeah.
to go quickly.
Yeah, I agree, because if that had been there, then I wouldn't, I would like, you know, it's like, why is that all of a sudden changed by 2 years? Finally, have we received a response on the grant that we submitted for the preliminary study for the North Long Lake Road and Straight Road?
Unfortunately not, and I was just talking with our consultant on that here day before yesterday, and they have not heard anything either. They had indicated that it was going to be a fairly quick turnaround, but it is unfortunately not. And I don't have a way in which we can kind of reach out to them specifically and ask about that. But I'm going to nonetheless try to reach out to them and find out what the status of that is.
Okay, yeah, because it was supposed to be 60 days, right, from August
Correct.
27th. So.
Correct.
All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
I just wanted to comment on Hyder's comment just to Dan and everybody that, you know, supporting him in the changeover. I kind of wanted to throw out a little bit more that when Dan moved up from Fleet, that left a hole that people are filling in that area there. And I want to make sure we well compensate Dan for stepping up, but there's just a whole trickle down. And sometimes agencies have a bonus or something because everybody's stepping up during a time until they're fully staffed. And it's just something to think about, because a lot of times you don't realize that it trickles down all the way down, you know, to everybody that works in an agency, because Dan's had to take on a lot, but he's also wearing 2 other hats, and it's not possible. I mean, it just isn't, right? So people are helping you with those other hats that you left behind. And I just wanted to make a note about that, because sometimes that gets behind, and I just wanted to at least acknowledge everybody that's stepping forward, you know, at every rank of the road commission, because it is hard when you have a change in leadership, so.
And we are gonna have an action item as it relates to what went on.
Right.
We just have not been able to get that.
Well, yeah, and just letting Dan know, like Hyder did and
Yeah.
Jason did, that we support you, so
Yeah,
we can only
absolutely.
talk about your pay, but you have the ability to talk to us about everybody else's pay or bonuses or whatever. And we encourage that, even though we can't technically, because we don't oversee them, you do. That's something that I think we're all open to listening to, so.
I was suspect the next meeting will take care of the part we can take care of.
Right.
You just weren't able to get it.
So we need to let Dan know, we will support you in taking care of the other part.
Commissioner updates.
I have a few from my board meetings. The Airport Commission, I believe, so I talked with Bob, the engineer at the airport, and I believe this has been discussed, but I just wanted to make sure. There were 2 points Bob had. The first point was that 3 Mile Road is scheduled to be worked on during phase 1 of the MDOT Grandview Parkway. And is that on the?
Yeah, it's on the big.
Okay,
you
good.
talk about
So that
it,
was the
yeah.
one. The second thing he brought up, I'm just trying to remember from all my board meetings. The second thing he brought up was, is there some, and I know this isn't like, I know you can't answer it, so please don't feel like I'm putting you on the spot. But he had a really just holistic question, and I don't know enough about the Road Commission to answer it. It was, MDOT is coming in and doing this big project. And people that are local know all of the ways to cut through. And there's obviously official reroutes, right? Is there any kind of shared repair money or acknowledgement by MDOT or funding for some of our local roads that people are going through because of that? And one thing I wanted to bring up, I don't know if you guys know or not, the city made a mistake on the Union Street project, and they forgot to put all the infrastructure in the bridge. So the bridge is gonna have to be torn up again. That was the biggest pain. Well, my office is next to it, so I'm not gonna lie, it was horrible. So while we have this MDOT project going on, we have this infrastructure issue in the city at the Union Street Bridge, which is, you know, State Street is, let's face it, a thoroughfare that people use, you know, to get through.
That's the bridge?
Yes, so
They
you know,
just
the
opened
Union, they just opened it. Like I waited almost a year. to
Yeah,
even
they just
drive
opened
over.
it like 2 months ago.
So they announced that they did make an error and there's an infrastructure problem. So there's these components that are coming in where these through streets are going. And you know, are there availability for funding for maybe damage that's done to roads that aren't necessarily thought of to house that much traffic? You know what I mean? Like a Washington Street or, and I know that's in the city and we're the county, but that's my most recent one I can think of when 8th Street was redone, the people on Washington looked to get funding. I'm thinking in the county, we've got the 3 Mile area, Parsons, the airport is obviously concerned about that section of South Airport and 3 Mile Road. They're concerned about the road and entering into the airport, but they're speaking for all of their neighborhoods, you know, neighbors as well. So I just wanted to pass that on from Bob. So that was the one. In Green Lake Township, there is a gentleman that has a driveway that is concrete. It is up higher than the rest of the road. Do you know what I'm talking about? Okay. He is patiently awaiting a communication from the road commission because the season is coming to an end and he is concerned about that. And if you guys don't know who he is or have his contact, I have it. I just didn't want to throw that out there. And the last thing is Peninsula Township. I want to talk about Bluff Road. I want to talk about it with the budget. I want to talk about our committee. I want to keep talking about Bluff Road. I definitely think we should all sit down again. We have a different person at a leadership role. I would love Isaiah to meet you. And obviously whomever's interested in the committee that Alan and I are on. I just think we need to keep talking about Bluff Road and
Yeah, there's a lot to tie in with that, and it's, I don't know, are we just?
those are my
done
three
with your
committees.
commissioner privilege? I do happen to know something about the MDOT detour money.
Yes.
And Wayne actually is probably an expert at it, but I have worked for other counties who've got hundreds of thousands of dollars in advance to be allowed to use the county road. And to me, before MDOT used our 3 Mile Road, that should have been totally reconstructed for us by MDOT.
Right.
Now, you talk about the plans.
Typically what happens is MDOT will approach the road commission or local agency on that in order to use for a detour. And then they will come to some type of an agreement beforehand. Everyone knows their own back way, and those routes are typically never compensated for because they're not part of that official detour route. In this case with the Parkway project, they asked for permission to put truck traffic on South Airport over to 3 Mile and then 3 Mile back up to 31 on that. And so I'm not sure what the agreement was with between Brad and the state on that, but they will go through, they will record that. They'll actually video the route down through there.
Oh, I see. Before and then after.
Before and after,
Okay,
yep.
gotcha.
At the bare minimum, I recommended at the bare minimum, we need, you know, new pavement markings, just that extra is going to be on there, and we should at the bare minimum get that.
But we did miss the opportunity to get the jackpot up front because whatever the contact was, it wasn't asked.
So that's not something you can do after. You
Well,
just
we
can get a
can-
repair based on the before and after video.
Well, we might be able to get more, but
Okay.
it's not as, your bargaining chip isn't as high. as-
And they do that in the planning phase for the whole project budget, which might have been 30 months ago.
I see.
So we're currently working with MDOT right now for their future projects down on 31 west of Chums Corners. And they've got projects down through there. They're working with Fensley County. They're working with us on improving some of our local roads in order to put traffic down around there. It's a whole process that they're going through.
Well, I will respond to Bob then. I can fill him in on all of that, but that was, you know, something that has consistently been asked by both the commissioners for the authority and the engineer as well. So.
Comments?
I attended the Long Lake Township Board meeting. We are going to be working at the intersection of South Long Lake Road and West Long Lake Road. Next year, part of that project is installing new culverts there. It was a big issue for both Green Lake and Long Lake because of flooding in that area. And then the one news that was very well received was when I told them that we would be working on reducing that vertical crest on South Long Lake Road because it reduces sight distance. People were very happy to hear that we were trying to be addressing that. Thankfully, no one asked me about the big store project township at the meeting. So I was glad about that. They cornered me afterwards, but not at the meeting. One of the trustees did ask me if we have any plans for the Secor and East Silver Lake Road, that intersection. Apparently, I remember there being a discussion several months ago, several months ago about doing some sort of a plan for a road safety audit at that intersection. I don't know if it's already happened, it was supposed to happen, but from personal experience and from talking to other people, that is a dangerous intersection because of the.
It's been dangerous since 1984 when I lived at West Silver Lake.
Right, and it's just you don't see the traffic pulling out, you know, that's coming down, and people are traveling fast on Silver Lake Road, and it's limited sight distance there. So, you know, anything that we can do, I guess, I don't know, but whether there was an RSA for that intersection planned or.
We're going to be submitting for an RSA at the Silver Lake. To the north, we did get a safety grant for a hill cut at that intersection.
At Secor?
At Secor and what's that? East Long Lake.
Okay.
There. In order to take take the knob off.
Yeah.
So improve sight distance there. But yeah, down a little bit further down there at Silver Lake, our approach is we want to go and do request an RSA, because if we go through that process and then it's going to come back as a roundabout.
Yes.
As the recommendation.
And we all look at you.
Yeah. And if we go through that process and do an RSA, we get much higher rating points when we submit then for
It'll be like River Road. It's
Yeah.
simple.
So is there, what's the process? Is that on the list? I guess I don't want to jump ahead either. Is that on the list of, is it on a project list or is that separate from a project list and ours?
That would be a separate from project list. That'll be on something that we put together when they do the call for safety projects.
Okay, so
we would be
when does
looking
that
at-
typically happen? Just so I can report.
That's probably going to be happening this winter.
So is that going to be one of the projects that intersections that we'll be submitting for an RSA? And is that a grant?
Yes, it's a grant. So we currently have an RSA for, we currently have one out there. And what MDOT does is, because they're relatively small, it's like $20,000 total, and our percentage is, $4,000. So what they will do is MDOT will take all the RSA approved RSAs, and we'll get a consultant on board and do it. And so we just get the bill for our portion on that. But they run it through.
So it's in the winter. Okay, I'll report that. That's all I have.
I have a little report from Garfield Township. We're real happy to report that they think even in the last couple of weeks, our communications with the township have improved. And I don't know who you're talking to over there, when the staff is working with them, But maybe with personalities didn't get along, maybe it's just because all of a sudden you got thrust into this, but they had very nice compliments. So whoever on the staff, Daniel and everybody, thank you.
I could vouch for one guy on the staff that was very grateful to meet you and thankful that you were there. And Jim, I should say. Communicating with you're kind of the communications queen here. I know that, but I'm stepping up to report that the communications that I've received back from the people on the township board were real good. They're also happy with our improvements at the airport and Silver Lake intersections. And I personally have seen the traffic is clearing at the lights. There's no lines. Maybe it's the wrong season where we were lined up to Best Buy. Maybe some things will trigger that. That is working. Then Mrs. Agostinelli wants us to repaint the signposts at Frankie and Silver Lake Road. She said we have these big green, I think we're buying galvanized posts now, but I think maybe those were supposed to fit into somebody's color modem and they're green, and the snow plows are chipping the paint off those big, beautiful green posts we have. They're silver at Barnes, but they're green everywhere else.
The light posts.
The whole light.
I know what you're,
Yeah, so the comments go from really good to some minutia. And, maybe I'll write a report on the minutia. I would, instead of bringing it.
No, that's okay.
I have a huge list, but I think this part of the commissioner updates is not for the commissioner's privilege. But I would hope that the commissioner's privilege gets moved up because everybody's tired and always wants to go home.
Yeah.
When we're ready for that, and we're missing some opportunities to talk about stuff. We only get to these things when it's a train wreck at the end of the agenda. Part of that is meeting more often. We need to meet more often.
And
Because we pretty much exhaust all the comments, questions towards this part of the meeting. Yeah.
You got anything, Jason? I have just a couple things. One, I did a ride along. I would encourage everybody on the board to do a ride along if you can one day. I know we're getting into snow, so it'll be a little bit different. The vehicles do not slow down when you're standing on the road. I can tell you that right now. They whiz past you. I think some of them try to see how close they can get as they're going around. It's a very, very interesting day. I did attend the commissioners conference. I gave everybody a little packet of what I thought was nice and pertinent that you might want to know from some of the sessions, not all of the sessions. Changes afoot, all that kind of stuff. So please read that if you got any questions. Been with Dan on a couple meetings. We went to the emergency, I can't remember what they call that, IEPC group, and they did a great presentation. I'm happy to tell you that the road commission was the only one that had a PowerPoint presentation on what was happening. And it was very done between you and Tracy. Very good job. That was wonderful. So things are, I think, moving very positively.
Well, thank you for going to that, because every month you may know I ask about the LPT and the LEPC. So thank you. Finally have an answer. Yes, I was there.
Couple things I probably should have brought up during my comments with the spark with everyone talking. I know you talked about Bluff Road. I've had some residents reach out, so I actually scheduled a meeting and had a really great conversation with Commissioner PJ Andrews from District 7. So that was a really positive conversation. It was nice to sit down and they're one-on-one. So I did do that last week. The 3 mile concern, we went to the LEC meeting. When we saw all of a sudden what is happening, with downtown, it jarred us to realize we need to do something. Obviously, that's going to be a major bypass. So I got with Wayne and Derek, and they're actually looking into, unfortunately, that's a federal aid project on 3 mile. So they're looking into, and they've asked for an extension to see if we can push that back a year. Still haven't heard back the last time anyway.
We haven't, I'm assuming it's going up that flagpole for approvals.
We're hopeful, we're feeling positive because the state is involved in that federal aid. So it's their project and we're trying to, make a good detour for them. Something else that concerns me, if we do still have to move forward on it, would obviously be town lines. I think that's gonna become applied sneaker. I don't think town line is gonna be able to handle that traffic. So that's probably gonna be the next place everybody tries to run.
Its own traffic.
Got the swamp is deep there.
But that's one of those roads that could be fixed had we had, right? I mean, it's rando, right? It's like where people pass through wherever, not an official detour.
Would we,
That road.
can I ask the question? So if they say no, you can't move it, will we go ahead because we don't want to lose the federal aid project?
But that would be correct. We really don't want to be losing that amount of money there.
And could we quickly wedge over town line in the spring to improve that, because it's all gonna be a mess anyway, and even though it's not gonna last very long because it's in the swamp, would you maybe we can go back to maybe that's a specific ask for MDOT saying wedge over this quick so it's rideable. They've done that. They did Roy Elmer's is on Rennie School Road by my house one year. It was dirt. When they wanted to do Chum's Corners, they whipped out a couple courses of asphalt. We have a road there now, and maybe we could backwards ask for not a full reconstruct on town line, but something that would
Help accommodate their detour.
we're helping, and if you have some specific asks, you might get somewhere.
And will MDOT help us with the fence on the?
Right. On town line.
We want to wait on 3 Mile. We want to wait on 3 Mile because they're doing this. Well, is there any way that MDOT can also help us with the federal government? To push it back?
We specifically referenced the Grandview Parkway project on there, in that our South Airport is part of that detour, and because it ties in there, so we've asked for that and identified that. So we're hoping that will be enough, and if not, then we can. I can get Dan, or I can call Brad.
So, but even with the 3 Mile project, the federal aid is something I want to come to the board and talk about, because that was identified at the meeting as one of the main corridors.
Right.
I'd hate to see us take the money into that and then decide based off the corridor study that we want to do some sort of improvement, be back in there within 5 years, totally redoing what we had just done. So that's something I think we need to definitely take a look at before we just move forward.
Well, to that point, I was always under the impression that we were limited as to the extent of the improvements we could do on 3 Mile Road because of the wetlands as a certain part. But so do we have additional options other than the project that is already,
Mitigate more,
being, yeah, there's land bank and trade, but I guess we haven't looked at that. But to Alan's point quickly, if we are gonna be let's just assume if we are gonna be working on the 3 Mile Road project at the same time that the Grandview project is taking place, couldn't we go to the MDOT and ask for monies to repair town line? Because wouldn't town line essentially become the detour during that period of time?
Not the official detour, but yeah.
But if 3 Mile is closed, where is traffic gonna go? It's gonna go through town line. So at that point, it is a de facto detour.
That's alternative. Gravel.
So can't we go to MDOT?
Right, because the official
Everything.
detour doesn't
Right,
exist.
it's closed.
So they would have to name an alternate detour, right, if the official
To an
detour
alternate.
doesn't exist?
Well, the detour for MDOT's detour is utilizing South Airport
Right.
over 2 3 Mile and 3 Mile north. Our 3 Mile project
on the other
is
side,
being handled at
right.
South Airport.
Yeah, and town line wouldn't be a federal project, right? It would be something we would do.
Because it's a local road, we can't utilize any.
I agree. I really would like to see some work done on town line, because regardless of, even if we are working on that portion of 3 Mile Road, it's gonna have increased traffic.
At some point,
Yeah,
The
it
issue
will.
is town line and 3 Mile are gonna have to come right?
We had,
We're gonna get a lot of yuck out of there.
we had this summer, we had one of our local consultant firms, Gosling Zubek, take soil borings on several different roads, and town line being one of them, to give us a soil analysis and a pavement design. we haven't heard back from them yet. We're inquiring where they at in that process so that we can then know what that pavement design needs to be on that route.
Yeah, and I think Dan, weren't you the one who I think you mentioned something about that with Costco being there, there's already people who are using Town Line Road from all the way from Hammond Road, kids and.
With the
Development across the street.
the golf course there, they're moving into that development. I have noticed, I love that direction. Kids walking across and bikes. I don't know if they're heading down to Costco to get a candy bar or what, but I've noticed a couple of scary situations where, you know, I will say teenage and younger kids are running across the end of that 5 lane.
And doesn't the new site work at the
Yeah, Elmbrook.
Elmbrook
Yeah.
change the usage of the road? I heard a rumor and I just.
Yes, it does. So we had, when they were starting to look at that their second phasing out, we did require a traffic impact study. The traffic impact study does come back stating that a signal is warranted.
A signal at
Hammond and Town Line.
Hammond and Town Line. That's between like roundabouts, kind of, isn't it? Or,
No, it's not gonna be between roundabouts.
Okay.
No, it's further, it's.
okay, I was just thinking, wow, like that sounds terrible.
It's between Garfield
Between two
and-
roundabouts. But like for real, the before video on Town Line would look like an after video. Like we do need to prioritize that
Mhm.
regardless of the detour.
What's the last year we had counts on Town Line?
Well, we got counts this last summer.
And then prior to that?
And prior to that, I'm gonna probably say probably back in 2018 when we were doing some local road gradings.
There's another housing development going in.
Pulling up counts right now.
I'll see if we got it. See if we got it. Okay.
And I did talk to the airport.
Did you?
And we can't commingle FAA money to try to do any kind of access.
Yeah. Yes,
Um,
because they were willing to talk about like a joint project, but
I don't know if
you know where they
there's
get their
something else they can do,
funds
I don't
from.
know, but
Yeah.
you can't use FAA money
No.
for road. Even though you have to access the airport.
That's what we talked about. Like, how do you get to the airport then? Like parachute into the airport?
So,
Yeah, that was.
I know we're getting off kilter.
Okay.
Right. We can get back here and get going, so, let's buy a few things, I guess. So, any more comments? We're gonna move on to the purchase of equipment. First thing I'm gonna say is I gave you your book, and everybody else got their book
Yeah.
earlier. And, we are not the only road commission that is doing this right now, so.
All right, so did reach out to Stoops and Dan Walters. We purchased the last round from. He's actually able to hold pricing the last time we went out to bid. So it actually is amazing. The one portion that is a little bit scary because emissions are changing. That's of course why we're
doing it.
we're buying so many trucks. They're already starting to implement them. They don't know if they're gonna be on these trucks or not. And it's just small degrees of it. They're moving the exhaust system. And when these trucks come in, he doesn't know if these trucks are gonna have the new exhaust system or not. If they do, it can potentially be in the way of our underbodies. So they'd have to move the exhaust system once they hit the dealership. He's estimating that on the high end, it could be an additional $4,000.
Okay.
We will have no idea until these trucks land. He doesn't know where it's gonna mandate it, what the cutoff line is, where our trucks fall in line for the system. So they're rerouting the exhaust a different direction.
I would move that we accept Stoops' offer to sell the 2025 47X Western Star Tandem Axle trucks at the 2022 bid price of $155,000 each for a total cost of $1,395,000 more or less.
With the possible additional costs for the.
Yes.
For the loss. I will
Okay.
second it. I will
With-
second it with the possible additional
Agreed.
cost for, yeah.
So they will have, now that we have a motion and a second, the updated exhausts, are they talking about the updated exhausts on these trucks in line with the 2027 emissions or?
So there's stages of this. The 2027 is where they're just completely
Right.
redoing it, cutting in half. But they're already set up EPA of like, you gotta get a little better each year. And this is gonna fall into one of these years where they have to increase it by, 0.003 versus, when we have the big one in 27. And they're already pointing at, the Great Buy Ahead but there seems to be a rush on these trucks purchases, especially, you know, when we get down to that last.
Look at those guys going straight.
I can tell you that the counties I talked to at the conference are all buying ahead.
So 26 is probably gonna be hard to get in line to purchase a truck.
But if every time we have to buy this truck and then pay more to update them because of these emissions, I mean, what's the
Because
advantage?
I actually was talking to Western Star and some of their reps, and they're not sure they're gonna work, quite bluntly. I don't know how to say it, they're like.
You came from the shop field. Do you suppose at some point we will be
2027, yeah.
rehabbing our trucks instead of?
Depending how these 2027 trucks come out, it's something I looked into in the past, because when I started going this direction in cost, the last time I priced it out, to rehab a truck was $120,000. At the time, we were buying trucks for about $130,000. It didn't make sense to me to rehab a 20-year-old truck for almost a brand new purchase cost. Now, they're saying once the new systems come out, there's gonna be an additional $40,000 to $50,000 cost on top of these trucks. And you're gonna go, so we're gonna be looking at well over $200,000 for a truck. If at that point you're looking at 120, maybe it starts to make sense if you can get away from those additional.
Talking about this for 2 years. now.
Well, there might not even be the supply at that point too. Even, might not have the choice. You may have to rehab a vehicle because you simply are, behind in a long line of people waiting for new ones.
Where does this sit us in, because I know we're buying ahead, we usually buy three. Does this fully round out? Does this retire all the?
We are gonna have
Does this
everything
retire?
off a main line. We're actually gonna be in good shape for a couple of years. By doing this, we're gonna buy ourselves a few years of not having to be the guinea pigs on these new emission systems. Once we start to get back, then it's gonna change our fleet management plan, obviously. So we're doing 3 a year. We have 30 route trucks. It rotated out every 10 years. It's gonna change our fleet management plan and our outlook, but unfortunately, I think it's gonna go across the board with other equipment as well.
So is the strategy is that let's buy these ahead of time, and then if we have to gradually update them to meet up with whatever the emission standards are, in the long run, it's still cheaper to rehab, to update those systems rather than buying a brand new truck. Is that the reason? Or the grandfather?
Yeah, what he's talking about, the additional money, is simply moving the exhaust system so it works with our equipment.
I see, okay. I thought the update had to do with emissions. Okay.
Let's say that's why we're buying it early. So we don't want the
emission
emission stuff right now until they get it figured out, because as it stands right now, they're not gonna have enough horsepower to move snow.
Yeah. Right. The reason I talk about emissions is because it says due to upcoming emissions changes above
Right.
companies unsure. So that's why I
It's new
assumed
trucks.
that the updates had to do with emissions.
It does.
It's weird because every year the emissions are getting tighter and tighter.
Right, and that's what it
This
was
is
saying.
just a small step into that, so that their way of hitting that was to reroute the cost,
Got it.
which is gonna be in the way of our equipment.
Got it.
So
then we need to.
when we buy these 9 trucks, they have to be outfitted with bodies. Is your plan to outfit 3 and keep 6 in storage?
Yes.
That they will not, we won't be responsible for outfitting them until the year they should go into service.
Correct.
These trucks are gonna sit in the corner of the garage,
Hopefully Kingsley's done, we have extra space down there and we can.
not going anywhere.
We're just storing them.
Just storing them.
So we'll still rotate them in, and then that's the end of the mainline trucks. Will all be one brand, correct?
Yes, and several spares. We're gonna finally, we have a couple of like 0205s. This is gonna push all that out and we'll be up to date, We won't have any.
You do have to be concerned a little bit with it. Our roads are getting worse and our trucks are getting better and they're sitting in storage. You need to be aware of that. That's what the public,
Yep. they're gonna-
some of the public think. I mean, we know our reason for buying these trucks is because they might not be able for something we can buy. In the meantime, we're buying these trucks and we're storing them and we're letting the roads that we have deteriorate further.
I think we're gonna be able to actually have more money to spend on roads when we get to that point, because of the cost of the headed purchasing these trucks. But I know up front it looks a little bit bad, but in the long term, I actually think it's gonna allow us those years that we don't purchase any trucks. Actually,
outfit and spend the rest of
to have more money to spend on the road. So in the long term, it's actually, I think it's gonna benefit the roads. Unfortunately, it's gonna delay, maybe a little bit for a year or two.
Well, that's why it's important to have these conversations and ask these questions in this meeting, because it does serve a purpose to let the public know as to why we are doing what we are doing, rather
We
than just,
represent all of it.
rather than just approving purchases without any questions, so.
And the wash is very helpful.
Yes.
Very helpful.
And we're paying for these next year, and they're gonna be in next year's budget.
Correct. It's gonna be 24.
I mean,
We don't have any carryover left that this is budgeting against. We're committing next year's money. I just need to know that. Any call questions?
Yeah.
State a roll.
Horn,
Yes.
Lehman,
yes.
Gilman,
Yes.
Chasm,
Yes.
Underwood.
Yes. All right. Let's get it.
I will make the motion to approve the purchase of one 2023 Eager Beaver 1821 brush chipper from Morbar in the amount of $76,366.88 more or less.
Support. Is this replacing? This is replacing a 1992 chipper. It's been a long time. It's one of the best things for updating is obviously the machines wore out. It's not very good anymore. But the safety features that have came in the last years, it's gonna be a lot much better for our crews to use these. They have breakaways and different things in them now, so it's much safer. If someone's trying to get sucked into the chipper, it's gonna stop that. Which we don't
That's
currently
an
have.
important safety feature to have.
Unfortunately, the price of chippers has gone up drastically. So
This will be gas.
this is gonna be gas. If we went diesel, we're gonna run into the whole emissions issue all over again. We're gonna run jet fluid. We did last time purchase the gas. This will be a sister to a chipper we currently own, so we'll be able to share blades, share parts. So it'll be nice.
Other questions? Kylie?
Lehman,
Yes.
Gilman,
Yes.
Chasm,
Yes.
Horn,
Yes.
Underwood.
Yes. All right. So now we are.
Now we get to the fun stuff.
We're supposed to skip to the corridor update because we
Corridor
moved the project.
So we're doing corridor. right?
Yep, corridor update for future planning.
Wayne and Larry.
Corridor update. What I have is, we have all the notes from people, from that meeting, and, we're just compiling those notes. And we'll get them kind of in a, document that's readable, and I basically told them that we would share all those notes with everybody, so. Gathered their emails and all that good stuff, and we'll get that data out to them. There's been, asks for addition, hey, add this, maybe trade this for this, that type of thing from townships and others. So, but there's also lists of, projects coming from some of the townships, so that was kind of nice. And a little bit, I believe it would probably be TARP, because they were talking about there will be crossings along these roads, and so we're getting pretty good information. And so it was pretty good. I mean, I know it's a little kind of sporadic and a little weird, but I think we, at the end of the day, we got what we wanted out of it. Some comments and some communication.
Did we get any commitments for master plan sharing or anything?
We did. Actually, I believe it was that Acme that dropped off the USB drive, so haven't had a chance to look at it yet, but it sounds like most of the townships I talked to, they're on board to, hey, let's work together, let's plan this together, and let's go. So,
You asked me about the thumb drives,
yes,
and you're gonna add this meeting onto those thumb drives.
I am, yes.
Townships.
Yep.
I do another one to give to the county commissioners, like we did the last time.
Yes, I can do
Even
that.
though I know it's on the YouTube channel and everything. they
Okay.
seem to like
It's not quite up there yet.
Yeah.
I still gotta kind of put it together, download it, and then get
I
it out.
think they liked it. And
Everybody wanted the slides
Yeah.
too that you had.
Slides we can
Yeah.
put together for
Yeah.
those slides, yeah.
Definitely the slideshow that you did was great.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right,
that
we
was
can do
really
that.
good. I thought it was really good, and the thing is, it doesn't matter if it's awkward or maybe a little combo, because I still think some communication is better than no communication.
Absolutely. Agreed.
And I think everybody in that room knew that there was a genuine reach out, and a desire to communicate. So it doesn't have to be polished and perfect, because none of us are, but I still think it was a really good start. So thank you, because I know you guys put a lot of work into it. That was a lot of work. So I enjoyed it.
I'll keep sure. I sat with Brendan, the manager from Leelanau, was really impressed with the effort. He said, this is a big effort. You guys, to undertake this kind of stuff. And I said, well, we as a group really want to think ahead. We'll buy some plow trucks and do whatever we got to do. But we want to look ahead. So the people, when we get to that year, aren't looking behind and saying, those people have their head in the sand.
Why didn't you do this? What were
Why
you
didn't you do
thinking?
this?
How come you didn't? Yeah.
The fact that you're gonna have an overlay with the trails, with EMS, fire, rescue, Beta said they were gonna give us their spots. So we're gonna be able to look at the whole transportation system as a unit versus roads, buses.
Which builds a coalition of like-minded needs. You know, it doesn't matter if you're bikes or buses or cars, there are some like-minded needs there that you can work together on.
Anything else? Wayne, anything you want to add? That's the engineer.
Nope, we really encouraged them to, kind of take a look at those routes, those corridors and the fingers on and off, and to put their comments down there so that we can take a look at those. We brainstormed in here, but we really want their thoughts on that. So they were, I know, making notes, and so as we go through them, we'll be looking at and addressing and modifying accordingly.
Yeah, I just have one more thing. It was definitely a team effort. We had a lot of people help out, and I was appreciative for their help.
Yes, the crew did a good job.
Yeah, that was a lot of work.
The crew did a really good job.
The food was good too, whoever did that.
Yeah.
Because that stuff matters too.
I guess we'll do the waiver next, the retirement benefit waiver.
Yeah, go ahead.
So this is something that actually pops up every year for us. We show as underfunded in our retiree health care savings plans that we funded for 2 different groups actually in time that we funded after they retire. Currently, we fund that healthcare savings plan while everybody works here. So we have 2 different groups, and you guys would see these payments that we make, we pay as we go. So every month we fund those 2 different groups. So what happens is, and I even asked the auditor, if we were a city, we wouldn't pass on from the funding situation voted. As a road commission, we have to supply that waiver saying that this is why it shows that.
And the amount isn't terrible, if I recall.
We pay like right now, and it will continue to decrease $8,000.
Yeah.
Are there OPEBs for the road commission? Or
Previous,
there were, and there's still a liability for,
we still have life, yeah,
when did the OPEB stop at the road commission?
2014.
I was gonna say around 15 or so.
Okay, so way after the
Yeah.
county then.
Yeah.
Okay, I did not know that. Okay.
And I specifically asked this when I got on board, it's like, it doesn't pay us.
Just pay us 100%,
100%.
just that's
Pay
what
as
it
you go,
Yeah.
is the best way to
There's
do it.
nothing you can do about that. That's why that concept isn't around really anymore for most people. It's not sustainable.
Any other questions? I'm gonna do a roll call on this one. Kylie?
Well, did we have?
That was the thing.
No, I need a motion
I'll make a
What
motion
do we have to say?
to approve
the waiver.
Oh, approve the
application waiver.
Jason made the motion to approve it.
I'll support it.
Kylie,
But I know
let's
what it
go ahead and
is.
do a roll call.
Gilman.
Yeah.
Chasm.
Yes.
Corn.
Yes.
Lehman.
Yes.
Underwood.
Yes. 2024 employee benefits. I'm just gonna.
Yeah, so I think you guys have a couple of documents in front of you. But just to summarize, we do work with Brown and Brown. They're overall putting our buckets together, I suppose, if you will say, for tunnel vision, and then our extra, like our life, short-term disability, long-term disability, and then the voluntary plans that people may want to get, like an accident insurance or critical illness. So we currently have, and we have had Priority and Guardian. This year, we did a more thorough quotation process, so went out and put it out to everybody. Some of the different carriers that participated were Priority. This year we had a Blue Cross. We also had a quote from a self-funded plan. And that was for health, for dental, vision, and life. It was Guardian, Standard, which is also Emeritus, Beam, Blue Cross, Delta, Mutual of Omaha, and Principal. Some of these carriers didn't supply everything, so you might see, some of them would just do life and short term, or some of them were just dental. So that was something in consideration. But overall, things that we looked at, the hard caps that we have to follow, the overall cost of the plans, the years of the rate guarantee. So some of these plans came back and told us we'll guarantee our rates for 1 year, some would say 2 years, so on and so forth. Looked at deductibles, co-pays, provider participation, meaning do we have the providers in the area who accept those different insurances. And these are all things that we're taking a look at. So when Brown & Brown first came back with the quote and I sat down with them, Priority was looking approximately at a 5 to 6% increase over last year. Guardian held all their services at the same level as the previous year, except for dental was going up 9% and short term was going up 3% or 13%. What I was a little surprised about was the first time that I had seen that Blue Cross kind of came in somewhat favorable. Years previous, they were much more expensive. We were still taking a look at what that plan was, if it was going to cover everything that our Priority plans did. And then another company popped in and it was Standard, Emeritus, to kind of offset the Guardian. They could actually do all of the benefits that Guardian did. And they were coming in at or lower in some of those. So I did ask Brown & Brown to put it back out again, just to see what Priority would say, knowing that, Blue Cross kind of came in a little bit closer this year. And so she put that back out to everybody. And so at the very end of it, what came to be is that Priority brought their plans down. I actually reworked our most popular plan with them to bring down the urgent care copay and the annual out-of-pocket max. With that said, and overall, they are better plans of what they offer as far as not being limited to who you can go to in the area. And right now, we would be able to renew with them for an approximate 4% increase with the plans that we have, still remaining under the hard cap that we're allowed to go up to. And then with Guardian and Emeritus, I honestly was on the board a little bit. Standard was coming in, and when she put it back out to them, Guardian dropped the dental, and they're going to match last year. They can't do anything with the short term. That still is going to be a 13% increase, but everything else remained the same. At the same time, Standard actually dropped a couple things and also agreed to take our rollovers. So what we have with our dental right now is at the end of the year, if you don't use all your money, you can carry forward a certain amount. So let's say you have a major dental work that we're going to have done. All of our employees are going to be able to carry that forward. Emeritus was going to do that for us too, like take on that liability of what Guardians was. So I was kind of excited about them until I started looking into the providers who accept them, and it's just not a great network right now. Maybe someday it'll be better here, but I think it would be really disruptive for people to find out like they have to change their dental and vision.
Yeah, that almost happened this year with Guardian.
Mm-hmm. So my current recommendation would be to renew with Priority and Guardian. And like I said, that keeps us under the hard cap. So we will still be able to fully fund all of those health plans as we do now.
It's like a 5% increase or a little over.
So if you look at the second sheet I gave you, once it all comes out together in the wash, it's like a 3.83.
So with respect to the health plan, is the priority plan the same plan that is currently in place?
We have three, so we have three through Priority, and they are all still the same three, except for on our most popular plan, we've been able to reduce to out of pocket for the urgent care. It was $75, now it's dropped to 60.
Okay.
And then the annual out of pocket decreased by like $1,000.
Okay. And compared to those three plans, Blue Cross Blue Shield plans were not comparable. Were they higher out of pocket? What was the difference?
So the difference from the point of service plan was it was harder to get to different providers. So a point of service plan is kind of where you have to have a referral type to get to maybe a specialist or some other doctors. When we reviewed that, it looked like it was going to be more difficult than it is now for the folks that we have on the point of service. The HSA was not as good. It was much more. So we don't have as many on that. And I can dive into the details on the other, but combined, when I looked at it combined, it didn't make sense to do that switch right now. But in the future, it's nice to know that we have two really large companies.
Were they cheaper than Priority though?
Blue Cross?
Yes.
They have after here. No, like on the HSA, they were like 20% higher.
Okay. What about on the?
Flipped it around, so I apologize. We did this multiple times, so forgive me because I have a lot of notes on here. So, this was the other piece. The 2-person plan on Blue Cross was above the hard cap. So that would mean that you would have people have money out of pocket.
Okay.
Not a ton, but it just wouldn't be under that hard cap. So that was one of the things with Blue Cross as well. Blue Cross, the 1,000 plan was 5.61% increase over last year. So where Priority was coming in still at 4%.
And everybody's pretty happy with what they got now, correct?
I don't have a lot of people coming to complain, so that's the way I look at it.
All across.
Well, we had the one crisis where something happened to Guardian and they notified a bunch of
Yes.
dental providers. And we're all getting these notices, well, you can't go to your dentist anymore. What? Why are we paying for this? And they fixed it real fast once, their motion where its word got back.
There was a motion, I suppose. I thought there was.
This one.
Oh.
So the wording in here is just approving the staff recommendations. Is that good enough, or do you need more specifics for exactly what?
Total annualized cost.
So maybe to say to renew this as we fund currently, I mean, because right now we have the hard caps. And we fund up to those.
I mean, there is
Priority
a
for
recommendation.
healthcare.
Yeah, I make a motion.
You don't have to put
I'm with
numbers.
you, that we accept the staff recommendation to renew the health coverage.
I'll support it.
But it is money, so we're gonna do a roll call.
Hanson,
Yes.
Horn,
Yes.
Lehman,
Yes.
Newman,
Yes.
Underwood.
Yes. That brings us to.
That's a lot of work, Heather. Thank you.
Another project list.
I recently did the same thing myself with the same results, and it's a lot of work.
So now we're gonna do current project 2024 lists.
Is that goes to item K, 2024? Goes to
Yeah,
item-
we put the two together.
Yeah.
So Dan, Wayne, how do you wanna do this? Cause you got both initials on, one on each one.
There you have,
Good.
Yeah, it's a lot to see with my,
Here,
our
so
50-year-old eyes.
Let me try to follow Wayne.
Yes, okay. Yeah, I don't know if we can get 24 by 36 plan sheets.
Yeah.
Right, so I
There you go,
apologize.
yeah.
A lot of information.
Increase the zoom a little bit.
Please, we're all of a certain age.
There you go.
So if we go in the upper left corner
Left
to
corner.
the blue. So, so these are, kind of had them broke down into groupings, and summed up. So we don't have any crack seal projects that we're looking at. We're good there. We have chip seal projects, and then I also tied in the associated funding, because we have to, we need to address funding, which ones go to it, because we don't want to be putting ourselves in utilizing millage funds on something that is inappropriate. So our chip seals, millage funded, we have identified $5.1 million in projects that will be chip sealed next year. HMA projects, and all of these are on the flip side of the sheet. So for details there, we can kind of get into that if you have specific questions on it. But our 24 HMA projects, millage funded, we've got 1.24 or $1.2 million identified. Then we have our east-west identified projects. There's $2.65 million of that. We have HMA projects, 2.39 million, $500,000 for pavement markings. Our state federal projects is a total of 3.54 million. Out of our budgets would be 1.298. We have illustrative projects that typically are identified, and these came off of the small MPO. They didn't ask for illustrative projects at the actual MPO. But those are still in there as identified. We have our heavy maintenance signal projects at 240,000, modernization of signals at 900,000, design for 2025, because we need to keep that in mind, 125,000. Township special assessment districts, total construction right now identified 783,000, but we do have 93,000 of our funds, because we have one project out there with East Bay Township that was started under the old policy where we would have 25% match. So we've got that into there. And then we have a safety project, a HSIP, highway safety improvement project that is actually identified for fiscal year 2025. But the state asked us if that is something that we could pull ahead. So we put that and identified that into here as well. So that is all the projects that show up as a need. If we slide over to the right and.
Can I ask one question for
yes,
people who might be watching? Tell them what HMA project is.
HMA, I'm sorry. That's a hot mix asphalt. Yeah, feel free. I use engineering lingo, so jump in there. If we slide over to, yep, and then scroll down a little bit just so that we can kind of see. Yes, there we go. Thank you. So right above that was basically for identified millage projects. We had something in the neighborhood of $6.3 million. All the NTF projects we have a need there, or identified need of 4.8 million. But we had our targets. The targets were set as 5 million for millage projects, 3 to 4 million for MTF projects. So we started looking at our projects and then started to scale back and start to cut out things to meet those the targets, and still have, according to our asset management plan, a higher remaining service life than what we went into, which would mean that we're making positive gains on our system, so that every year your roads degrade, you lose remaining service life. Our improvements, what we do on our projects and our improvements, we want to go up. So we have to make sure that we are making good positive selections in order to come out at the end with a higher remaining service life. So with that, we looked at carrying or honoring all of the chip seal projects. So that's our 5.1 million there. Now what we have there is we've got two columns, the GTCRC cost and then a construction cost, because that's with like our federal aid projects, our federal money's coming in there. It's something important to kind of look at when you get down to the very bottom. Our MTF projects. So I took the West and South Long Lake Road project, kind of shifted that out of millage and put that into MTF. That is a long-term, that's a long promised project. We wanted to really make sure that we got that in there and kept that going. So we have that in there at the 1.1 million. We have our pavement markings. Here's our road safety audit project that's already been approved. That's at Secor in West Silver Lake for the $4,000. Ours, and then the total project on that one is 20,000 in the second column. Fife Lake Road, that is a fiscal year 24. It's a federal aid buyout, which allows us to, within 3 years, build it. So we're able to take that and we're going to push that for 1 year. What that does allow us to do as well is we will, that project was only going halfway from the village limits of Fife Lake, going north up to, there's a creek there called 22 Creek. It was going to take it to there because that's where the dollar run up. And then in 25, we're going from 22 Creek all the way up to Supply. So by shifting this 1 year with that, as allowed with the federal aid buyout, we can then do that whole section in 1 year, inconvenience everyone 1 year instead of 2 years. So
can you just explain briefly what a federal aid buyout is?
Yeah, so the state just a couple of years ago entered into a program, and it's still a pilot, but we jumped on board. So they offered us 90 cents on the dollar of the federal dollars to do a project. What it does is it takes out a lot of the federal regulations and restrictions and all the extra reporting and numerous other aspects to it. We still have to meet Davis-Bacon wages. That is a requirement, but they will basically cut us a check for 90 cents on the dollar of those federal dollars to us. And then we go through our own designs. The design is going to be the same. We're going to then be able to do a local advertised Latin award project on it.
Okay.
Yeah, the Davis-Bacon question was one that I hadn't considered before. It's like, if we're getting the 90 cents on the dollars, we still have to comply with the Davis-Bacon, the prevailing wage?
Yes, yep. That is one of the requirements that came about. Right. Okay.
Thank you.
So Diamond Park Road Bridge, that is a federal aid project through the local bridge program. Our share on that's going to be just about 32,000 for the construction, but the total project on that one is going to be right around the $637,000. I've got it scratched onto here, but our 3 mile road project, we're waiting to see on that one. But for this purpose, I went ahead and scratched it off, looking and anticipating that we can kind of push that one year out as well. Our Garfield Road, that is our roundabout project at the Garfield Road at Potter, correct? That there, I won't read all the numbers costs here just to speed things up here. Then we have our signals. We've been doing a lot of great work on our signals. So we're maintaining our heavy maintenance for the signals, our modernizations, also been funding our design for 2025 for those modernization designs. Township SATs, this is what I mentioned that we've got a couple already on the books for next year, and as the others go through the process with the townships and we receive those approvals, then those will get rolled into our plan. But for right now, we've got 2. One of them did start a couple years ago, and so that is where we have a 93,000 on there because that's our 25% match on there. And then we have our HSIP, our safety project. That is, it's a $190,000 project. We are only doing 10, our share is 10%, so that's at 19,000. So that kind of rolls into there. And what that project is specifically is putting backplates on all of our signals. And that backplate helps allow and gives you good contrast with the signal heads, as well as it has a highly reflectorized border around it. And all the studies are showing, and it is truly something that even if your signal goes dark, your headlights hit it, you can see that background ring, and it really helps identify and show up that signal head there. So with that, we are at our target of we have $3.8 million with our funding on the for the MTF projects. That's just shy of $6 million in construction dollar totals on that. Added these together, the millage plus the MTF projects, our cost is at 8.9 million with just over $11 million worth of projects.
So
all subject to change.
So when you folks heard me talk on Tuesday that we needed $150 million over the next 10 years, if you look at the total amount of project was 15 million that we had to scale back to 9.
Yeah.
That's where that number comes from. So you weren't there, Heider, but the rest of you, at the beginning when I said we have to figure out how to do this because we do not have enough money to do the construction that we need to do. So we have to pick and choose what needs to be done.
Question, with respect to these recommended 2024 projects, where does the MPO fit in? The MPO?
So as we go forward, I see the MPO as helping us out. Projects, a lot of our projects are going to be able to be federal aid eligible. And those are projects that we're going to be pushing and applying for through the MPO. So that will certainly help us. Right now, I'm not aware that, it'll be a question I'll be asking of the MPO, is if projects identified through the MPO are also going to be eligible for the pilot programs of the federal aid buyout.
So are any of these none of these projects on this list are being funded through the MPO right now?
Correct.
Okay,
No.
So is there a separate list of projects that we'll get to see that are funded by the MPO? For example, the technical committee meeting.
Yes.
That happened last week, we had our projects identified for 2024, right? That
Sure.
we approved at the board. Where are those projects? First of all, what's the status of that, and why I don't see those projects on
No,
here?
the technical committee did not approve any of our projects. What they did is there was conversation and discussion that with the small urban program, the previous program, there were projects identified for fiscal year 24, 25, and 26. Now, off the top of any of those given years, previous agreements with the small urban program was Beta would get 12% off the top, and then 1 year would be the city of Traverse City would get the funding for a project. Then the next 2 successive years, the road commission would get it. City of Traverse City was identified for 24, and then road commission for 25 and 26.
So the city did come with a project.
So the city not only came with their original project that they've been diligently working on all the way through, but they also looked at it and expanded in order to fully utilize the remainder of available dollars to go all the way from the city limits where our project ended all the way up to 14th Street.
That was the Veterans Drive.
Veterans Drive project, yes, I'm sorry.
Is that happening in 24?
Yes, they've been working with the local agency programs all the way along, and that's why I did recommend that the TTCI Technical Committee support that, because they had already expended quite a bit of resources in that. And they appreciated that. And right now, and how it will go into the future, but they right now are also supporting our 25 and 26 projects that were previously approved, and have no problem with that. And then just, I think as that MPO group goes into the future, I think we're going to see a lot more needs, and looking at the whole program, we'll see how that kind of works out. But I have very high hopes. I think that's going to be, there's going to be a lot of good participation there.
But no MPO projects for us in 24.
Correct, right. And so that's why there's nothing on there for 24.
When you talked about Spice Lake Road and did you say federal aid buyout, the deferment, right?
Yes.
So 3 Mile Road is, you could do that with them too, right?
3 Mile is a category F, and we initially talked with them.
Which is what?
Okay, so category F.
I mean, I have my own idea for what that stands for. We are, yeah.
It's a family.
Outside of the urban limits, you have category D funds, which are primary roads that are all built to all season standards. So there are no spring weight restrictions. So trucks can travel on them all year round. That's those funds, when you cross over the lines and now you're in the urbanized limits, it changes to the letter F. And so it's the same thing. So it is building an all-season road within the urbanized limits on that. So we inquired with them. They initially said that the category F was not eligible for that, but if you've got a good reason, that they can run that up administratively and seek that approval. It doesn't negatively affect anything. It just, MDOT would carry books because those are state dollars. And so I feel fairly confident that they should approve that for us, because there is no negative. It's not like federal dollars that you have to expend in that given fiscal year.
Wasn't Parsons Road category F too? But they did.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Yes, correct.
And correct me if I'm wrong, those projects are identified like what, 3-4 years in advance?
Typically 3 years in advance. Yes.
And when did MDOT identify the Grandview Parkway project?
That project is on their list. I couldn't tell you exactly when they identified.
Because I want to know if we had identified 3 Mile Road as a category F project before MDOT came back out and started talking about redoing Grandview project. Because I think that's a factor too. You know, if we aren't able to get the feds to agree to postpone it,
3 miles.
you know, yeah, we in that situation, if we have to do that project next year, I think it's worth noting as to the time frame under which we identified that project, and that MDOT came out and did that project, which presumably I would think that if they're gonna take a project of that size, maybe they would consult with the local road commission to figure out whether they have any projects going that may impact their, you know, the alternate routes and that they have identified. But that's state, so can't expect too much common sense.
Thank you. Yep, and if you flip over, all the finer details are on the back for all the projects. If you are getting a little, or if you have it's on the
yeah.
If it's gray and it's struck through, that was one of the projects that we pulled off, that we are pushing.
Yeah, right.
Thank you.
So this be on the website?
Are we ready to go, or?
I mean, we could put it on there. Typically, we wouldn't put it on there until after budget has been approved.
Yeah.
So once that's
Just in
done,
case
then,
there's-
okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
You could always, I mean, I think
Makes
you
sense.
could put a disclaimer that this is proposed and
The draft or
a
something.
draft, and frankly, that would allow people a little opportunity to give us some feedback too.
We should probably tell our townships when we go to them, maybe about any of these projects that could, if you want feedback from people, wouldn't it make sense to have the trustees or,
That's it,
I mean, just say this is what they're thinking about doing. It hasn't been approved in the budget, but that would probably be.
Somebody's up to all the.
Well, they're the people that hear all the complaints from their residents about their roads, so it might, and if they don't speak, then.
I mean, I guess my only comment to that is that I sometimes am reluctant to put out information that is in draft form, because some people can just take it and run with it and then come back and, well, so I want to be careful as to how much draft information we put out there.
but at the same time, if it comes back to us, we say, okay, we're going with this, and then nobody's had an opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's that side of it as well, so it's.
I'm gonna put my pitch in here again. I like it because it shows that we need additional revenue to get everything done. And we have to make decisions on what roads get done on the limited resources that we have. Third Tuesday. When you have limited resources, we don't have the money that we have, that extra 10 million a year or whatever you wanna call it. We have to choose. Just the way it is.
On the SADs, just to update, if you guys didn't see it in the notes, that the Blue Star folks that were here, the township, they worked with them, whatever, they did their thing. And unfortunately, I think we all know it's rained a lot. So, you can see it scheduled for 24, even though everybody really wanted it done in 23, but the prices are allegedly set. But they are supposed to have their road temporarily fixed before, I mean, it could be a few weeks before we, have really bad weather, but is that still on? I know it's been raining a lot, so, but is that still on target to at least fill their potholes and kind of get their roads?
Yes, yeah, we'll definitely do the potholes, and again, I've talked to several people at Elmer's about this. And for some reason, we get a crazy nice stretch, it is on their radar to try to get it for us, so that's definitely, I rated up like full several times over at Elmer's.
Anything else?
All right.
Next one. Going Haley?
It's up to you.
Yeah. So, in this new position, I obviously have learned a little bit about food. I spent some time with Haley and
My favorite.
yeah, I found out several interesting things and I
I tried to have him do it himself.
yeah,
He politely asked that I showed up to assist.
and please,
In an attempt to help him out, as we all have been
Yes,
doing.
which I
I
agree.
said, sure.
which I greatly appreciate. So she put a great presentation together. Showed to me a few times. So I think it's gonna show a lot of information and just show truly where we're at with the project. I know questions are gonna probably come up. I talked to Haley, if we could get through each slide, at the end of the slide, there's any questions. Do it at that time.
So just as a little bit of a backstory on it, as I believe Mr. Gilman was the only one on the board when this all started, I wanted to kind of give you guys an actual understanding of what Scoot is, and then I'm giving you a status update as to where we are right now.
Here, Haley, I'll give you.
I was just gonna say, I don't know how to change the slides.
You can just back and forth right there. That's a laser, be careful.
Yes. Wait, don't blind dad.
Okay, so first and foremost, SCOOT is an acronym. It stands for Split Cycle Offset Optimization Technique. So a split is the time assigned to a phase. So that equals the green and the greater of either the yellow and all red clearance, or the pedestrian and clearance times during coordinated signal operations. This is usually expressed in seconds or as a percent. A cycle is a complete sequence of signal indications. The cycle length is the time required to complete the sequence of signal indications. And when I'm saying signal indications, I'm saying like if you're sitting at a road and you get a green, and now we go all the way back around until you get a green again. That's going to be your cycle. The offset is the time relationship between coordinated phases, defined reference point, and a defined master, usually a master clock or a sync pulse, measured as a time between intersections, as the time it takes for a vehicle to start from one stop bar and travel to the next. So that time is not just the time it takes to drive between intersections, it also includes like if you are stopped, obviously there is going to be a little latency when you get started. So that time is also included when you're calculating that.
The speed make up for that.
Correct. There, and this time is added into it. Usually it's somewhere between like 3 and 4 seconds.
Right.
However, it is added to include in the offset. Optimization, obviously when it comes to signal optimization, we're trying to minimize vehicle stops, travel delays, fuel consumption, and air pollution emissions. So when it comes to technique, Scoot utilizes a multitude of inputs from various detection points throughout the system to create a real-time status of the traffic volume, traffic flow, and traffic patterns. From all of those inputs, it generates outputs to instantly improve the movement of vehicles along the corridor. So simply put, Scoot uses a bunch of information it takes in to manipulate the outputs it puts out as a real-time adaptive system. It then changes the splits, the cycles, and the offsets to optimize how they work together. What Scoot is not. Scoot does not guarantee a green indication for a continuous road on any corridor.
Yeah. Like if you set yourself at if I said at this speed and I can drive, you're not going to catch every light.
There is no guarantee.
That is not how it's set up. And something I found very interesting in talking to you, like that it actually each signal is learning itself every single cycle. It's looking at traffic flow and traffic patterns, so it's constantly changing. So it doesn't. At the next light up has tons of traffic. It's it's doing that. The ones before it is light. It learns itself, so they're not communicating back and forth.
One other thing on this slide, and then I do have one more thing to say because I always do. Scoot is not an installable turnkey plug-and-play solution. So each Scoot system is developed specifically for the agency it was designed for, and not a single intersection has the same configuration. The Scoot team programs and designs each individual intersection and then takes that configuration to design it with the next two and vice versa to create the entire corridor. It's not something that we just plug in and it works. And like what Dan was kind of saying here is I've always pictured it as like the Tasmanian Devil cartoon tornado because all of these inputs come into it and then it spits something out of it. So it's taking in all the data and then it says, hey, at this intersection, I need you to do this. At this intersection, I need you to do this. At this intersection, I need you to do this. So that is kind of like some basic. It broke. Can you?
Yeah, I was being you. How about that?
Some basic what Scoot is and what it's not. So then
there you go.
The main reason we have Scoot is for congestion mitigation. Continual updates to the split cycle length and offset means that more traffic is moved along the main line as a platoon in a more effective manner. Platoons are groupings of vehicles on a main line going the same direction to maximize the capacity of a road with the signalized intersection coordination. Congestion is mitigated due to these adjustments, dispersing the congestion before it creates a continual backlog. The most difficult hurdle for signalized intersections to operate efficiently is overcoming a congestion backlog once it starts. The effective distance recommendation is less than half a mile between intersections due to platoon breakdown.
That was a huge sticking point to me because when we start to look.
Are you helping now?
Some of our corridors, they're over half a mile
Go ahead.
away from each other.
I will have a couple slides on that too, Dan. So this is what was currently, I like
I love that
pictures.
it's called cluster. I just wanted to say that.
For reasons of being recorded, I cannot explain my reasons.
You're reading too much into it. You're reading too much.
No, I actually live on that map and it is.
So do I. So at the very beginning, and this was actually before I was hired at the road commission, 2 corridors were chosen. So the South Airport corridor, which is east of US 31, along South Airport Road primarily. The biggest issues we had there, many of the side streets have high peak volumes. So like you look at the Grand Traverse Mall, you look at Veterans, you look at Cass in particular. They have a lot of high volumes on the side streets along with South Airport. Along the South Airport corridor, our communication is primarily broadband radios, with the exception of the 2 on 3 Mile, which are South Airport and 3 Mile and 3 Mile and Parsons. Now on the Silver Lake side, which is west of US 31, it is all non-arterial. It has multiple smaller congestion zones, all cellular communication. We have multiple distance concerns. We have 1 multi-node, which means that Silver Lake and Barnes and Silver Lake and Copper Ridge will be interacting as a single intersection through Scoot. And we also have 1 intersection that was determined to be running by itself on Scoot at North Long Lake Road and Cedar Run. So currently on the South Airport corridor, Scoot is operating from 6:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. Monday through Friday, with weekends hours of 8 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. During non-Scoot operations, all of these intersections run in free. Essentially what free means is the controller does not have a set cycle length, and it kind of services on demand based on the detection actuation. So basically, like when vehicles are there, it starts to take into that account, and it just runs what the service needs to be. But each intersection at that point is running by themselves.
Can we ask a question or?
Absolutely.
6:30 to 6:30. Is that how is that determined? Because
So-
you know, we get complaints at 6 o'clock that they're not working.
Okay, so
I had the same question.
So essentially, the 6:30 to 6:30 was found, so once Scoot started running, our vendor from the Scoot rep, when he was doing it, he looked at the models. So once we had it up and running in a soft run, he started looking what the actual volumes were. And so when Scoot chooses South Airport as its main, you are ultimately going to kind of play down on your side streets. South Airport will always take priority. So what he started looking at was, where is that volume pick up where it makes sense to start deprioritizing the side streets? And so based on those graphs, I don't currently have one in front of me, but we could get one if you'd like. He found that about 6:30 in the morning was about the time that it became advantageous for us to go into Scoot operation.
I have a question. Can you change light order within the Scoot parameters? I mean, can you basically change in an intersection, whether the left turn is first or last, within the Scoot parameters, and let the Scoot then modify its timings based on that? Or does Scoot need to have everything in a certain way?
So Scoot is fully programmed to what has been designed for that system. You have a specific example you'd like to ask about?
Okay, before Scoot, we had, for example, at Garfield and South Airport, there was, it was a different timing, which went first. I think it was.
Yes, they used to be leading lefts,
Leading
and now
lefts.
they are lagging lefts.
Right, was that as a result of Scoot being implemented?
It has nothing to do with Scoot, it had to do with optimizing the way that the signals run. And the reason for is by doing a lagging left, you allow anyone who has the opportunity to use that permissive turn to go. So in the event that you empty that queue, you no longer have to service it, you can skip that left turn movement and move right on to the next cycle.
Gotcha.
So if it was a leading left, you service it, and now you have to service everybody else still. But then people may not be taking advantage of the permissive because they may not be there. So the whole point is, we'll see it a lot on like Hammond, for example. There might be 3 or 4 cars. Well, if they all go through on the permissive, I don't need to service the left. And we can use that time now to service the rest of the intersection.
Got it.
And I assume you're getting ready for next year on at least
Yeah.
South Airport corridor.
Yeah, is school gonna explode?
It will not.
When the-
He's gonna get a little message on our little program screen. Mommy.
One question I had for Haley when we were talking about this, I said, well, you know, people are complaining about the 6 o'clock, what if we started at 4 or 5 o'clock? So it's actually gonna cause issues because it's gonna learn that slower traffic pattern. So when we have a busier traffic pattern, it's not gonna be able to.
Actually,
handle it.
the issue it was gonna do is it's gonna focus on South Airport too long when there isn't the demand for it. So what it's gonna do is people on side streets, one that
waiting.
one we hear it a lot on is Barlow and Lafreniere, which I do have a slide on because I've been working with the rep on that.
Yeah.
Because it's the way it transitions from free to scoot. However, if they're already complaining, if we move it sooner, then the problem's just gonna move because it's the way it's transitioning
I was
currently.
gonna make it better, it's actually gonna make it worse.
Then one more quick thing on the lagging lefts. The other advantage we have there is if someone's out in the intersection, now they have the green and they can clear instead of getting trapped. Sorry, Dan, I just wanted to throw that on
I
there.
appreciate it. I love the lagging lefts, and I spoke about it at one of our meetings when you went to that it gets the left. When they used to time at the same time, then the people want to jump the lights, the impatient people, the
So
oncoming
that is
traffic.
actually, so the way that this has nothing to do with scoot, but I love talking about signals. So the way that the protected permissive lefts work now with the FYA, which is your 4 section, I do have a picture of that. It actually holds the red arrow for about 2.5 seconds before it starts to flash to give the through movements time to start. And that helps prevent that cutting the gap.
That 3
Cutting
mile
the gap.
intersection, we make that extra lane through, that's gonna help with that too, because with the lagging left, it just stops traffic,
Correct.
you know, so.
Yeah, there's a lot of work that needs to be, and that's part of the reason it's going to be a joint signal road project, similar to what we did at Silver Lake and South Airport.
Yeah.
Any other questions before I continue?
But we'll adjust it next year when the traffic volume is crazy on South Airport.
Well, so the cool thing is it adjusts a lot on its own, but I have actually reached out to one of the reps from MDOT to make sure that I have the correct parameters set when we get to that. And we're gonna be seeking a little extra guidance because we haven't fine-tuned a lot, but we'll get there.
Okay. Cool.
So we're gonna start, this is just a quick map of the South Airport corridor. I am not gonna read all the intersections, but it goes from the mall, kind of east and up, and all the way to 3 Mile Parsons. And then the Silver Lake, I put the 4 on North Long first, and then I put the 5 on Silver Lake. So our current status update. So when Scoot rolled out, it came in a 2-phase piece. So we had the South Airport corridor and the Silver Lake cluster, and at the beginning, both were going at the same time. So we did the project initiation, the detection studies, the communication equipment advice, license purchasing, and then the Gemini outstation purchasing all at the same time. Then we became very aware of the disparity between what was currently on South Airport and what was currently available at the Silver Lake side. At that time, in attempts to continue the project, we focused primarily on the South Airport corridor. So at this time, we have installed Scoot, we have implemented the timing, we have changed configurations, we have done 1 single day of training. We did the system verification and the acceptance ATP, which just meant that all of the software and processing communication was working. When we go back to the Silver Lake cluster, the Geminis have been installed, they have not been programmed, and we did not initiate anything in phase 2 at this time. So on the South Airport corridor, the majority of South Airport is functionally running Scoot. So each intersection has all the required equipment, and the programming, where it's at now, is currently today. So I have a list there of functionally complete intersections, and we're gonna go through a couple that are not. So, as I mentioned, South Airport and Barlow Lafreniere has been a chronic headache, with several calls regarding the transition from free operation to Scoot, and it's usually between 6:30 a.m. and 6:37. So during that transition, instead of smoothly transitioning like the rest of the system, it tends to hold whatever the last call it was on was. I know it's something in the programming, the Scoot team is gonna look into it, I'm on their docket. So it is currently actively running Scoot. We just have that little glitch in the mornings. South Airport and Town Line Road at Airport Access there. We did a heavy maintenance project there this year. We converted the, as you see the pictures there, the doghouse left, which is the 5 section, to the FYA. And at that same time, we replaced all the heads and all the wiring, which has allowed us to take that intersection kind of off the, modernization list, and we kind of put him on the shelf. Because right now he's got new wiring, new heads, running very well. It is currently not running Scoot due to the FYA configuration change. I have reached out to the Scoot team. It's on the docket with Barlow. And then just as we kind of discussed earlier, the FYAs help alleviate what was called a yellow trap. And I know when we did this heavy maintenance project, there were some questions about that. And it kind of goes back to what we were talking about with that leading lagging. The other big benefit we see with the FYA versus the doghouse is instead of sharing a head, you now have indications above each lane. So like your turn is on the turn, it's not on the straddle line between the two. And then we have 2 modernizations currently underway on South Airport. We've got South Airport at Veterans and South Airport at Garfield. They're currently on hold due to strained pulls. They are just not available. In their current configuration, they are both operating Scoot. However, once they get modernized, there will be some configuration changes that will need to take place, but we are going to address that when they get changed. So at this time, they are running Scoot. We discussed distance a little bit. So I just kind of put a few of our issues on the South Airport corridor. From Garfield to Town Line, it's 1 mile. From Town Line to 3 Mile, it's 0.92 miles. And then from South Airport north to Parsons is 3/4 of a mile. Any questions on the South Airport corridor before I kind of delve into the Silver Lake cluster? All right, so actually as of the 24th, the Scoot team has reached out to start looking into scheduling their arrival, to start getting back into the Silver Lake side. So as I said earlier, the Silver Lake cluster required significantly more equipment and preparation than the South Airport corridor did. The picture down there is actually one of our 8-channel cabinets that we started with before we started making preparations for Scoot to come in. Up to date, we have added all NTCIP controllers. We have added all stop bar detection, advanced detection. We actually did our detection validation with assistance of the vendor in June of this year. We put in all the Scoot filters, which is a type of detection. It's one of those inputs that Scoot uses. And we also have installed all the cell modems and additional long range antennas. And I know there are some questions on cell modems, but I have a few things on that in the end of the slides. So distance concerns on the Silver Lake side. Basically, I'm not going to read them all, but they're all there. We got 1.5 miles, 1.15 miles, half a mile, 1.15, 0.65, and 1.35 miles. So there are some distance concerns here on the Silver Lake side. So now to get into the cell modems, as I know they've been brought up a few times, as they've been in reports and how we've been working on them. So to answer the first question, they are working in some aspects. They are working for us. If I'm here in the shop, I get live reporting from my intersections. We actually have a 4-screen display that gives us a bunch of feedback so we can monitor how everybody in the field's doing. And we have monitoring for all but one of our signals. I can get into controller front panels remotely here from the shop. I can get into our detection to make sure that it's picking up vehicles. If we get a call that people are missing calls, I can look at it and see. And my favorite part, when I get a call that something's not working, I can do a smart roll. I can pre-troubleshoot. I can look at the equipment that we have. I can see what it's doing before I get out there, so I know what kind of things I need to bring to fix it. We do have 2 fairly large issues with them right now that are in works. I know Larry's been helping us a lot. And we've got several others above us helping us. Within Tactics, which is our controller software, We have issues with it remotely updating our database. So we can't compare programs. I can't upload from the field. I can't push a program from the office, but I can live look at them. You know, so in my mind, already a win compared to having to drive to figure out what's going on. The other issue we have is kind of twofold. After hours, if I'm trying to VPN in, I can't get into my cell modems intersections. Still kind of working on that. But the
Yeah,
big,
you say after hours you can't, but
so like if I'm at home and I'm on my laptop, I can get into the broadband ones. I cannot get into the cell modem ones. And the reason I bring that up is because it's kind of impacting the way that Scoot is being functioned or being worked on over there. When we did the South Airport corridor, a lot of time they VPN'd into our system and did remote work. But the fact that they can't VPN into these ones right now,
they can't troubleshoot it from.
well, and it's not even troubleshooting. They were doing a lot of their program from wherever they were. They're working on systems
So is
in
it just,
Florida.
with the cellular system, is it just too much latency?
There's lots of issues we're working on.
We think there could be firewall issues, our firewall issues could be, you know, communication, you know, because we're trying to be safe, so.
And if that's the
open
case,
up
you
a
just
little
need
portal,
a
you know.
P2P connection.
Yeah, there's a whole lot going on there, but since I knew it had been brought up a few times, I figured, hey, if I'm gonna come and help you guys understand what I'm doing a little bit more, and Dan asked me to be here, I figured I'd really confuse you guys a lot for a few minutes.
There's no broadband solution to this. It has to be.
So the biggest problem we have, especially on the west side, is it's gotta be site. They have to be able to see each other. So like if we look at South Airport, if we look at even right here at Hammond, we have broadband connectivity between the hills, the curves, and the trees. Even if we could do them amongst themselves, there's no good way to get them back here.
What are we, if you have any idea, what are we spending on the cellular service right now?
Cellular unlimited monthly is like $40 a month.
Per station?
Per station.
Have you considered Skylink? I mean, doing something like that, which the latency's down, you know, they've actually got it pretty decent. And it's very fast data wise. And if you did something like that, you could probably set up some solid camera setups there as well.
So the biggest reason we went to cellular was because broadband was not an option. And then obviously Scoot's first recommendation was fiber, and fiber is fiscally not responsible.
Right,
it's around.
So cell modem is.
Unless they roll by, you know.
So cell modem was the only other tested, proven method that can work with Scoot when we get to that point at this time.
Well, the Skylink is broadband, but I mean, it is.
I don't know anything about that. I don't know how it works in the ITS.
It's $500 for the station and the dish, basically, which is what it is. And it self-locates. So if there's anything, if it gets off, it follows it and it finds it. And it's like $100 a month. Now, is it worth for the, how many stations do we have in the Silver Lake cluster?
So on cell modems right now, I have 12 locations.
12 locations.
It'd be less than fiber. I mean, fiber is looking at 300 to 400 a month.
And it would give you some more options. So
look into it.
So I want to thank you guys for letting me come to talk to you tonight.
That's great presentation.
Very much.
And just one thing I'd like to reiterate before I throw them under the bus, I did ask them before saying this. Any times you guys have any questions of signals, we love education. We love talking about it. We love spreading the word, getting it out there. Anything you want to ask, have questions, if you get them through Dan, through Wayne, we will help. We will answer. We will look into it. That's what we do. It's me and Ryan. There's two of us, and this is what we do. So
I have a question that you may know.
Oh no.
Obviously MDOT controls the lights at both ends of the detour that are gonna happen. Any way to sync that so it flows better, or
So-
are they still being very stubborn about we can control our own lights, and that's?
Yeah, I don't, long story short, MDOT will never let us do anything with theirs. However, the fact that we have advanced detection, so north of 3 Mile, I have advanced detection. On Parsons, we have advanced detection. At the Grand Traverse Mall, we have advanced detection. The best part about this real-time adaptive is it's gonna take whatever it gets.
All right.
So whether it's 20 intersections in a row or 10, it's gonna take whatever that first step is and it's gonna roll with it.
So ours will actually adapt to whatever MDOT's lights are doing.
In the same fashion that when we send them stuff, it'll adapt what they do. In fact, I know that when we started the soft run with Scoot, we got a call from MDOT about how many more vehicles we were sending them at 31. Which was kind of a funny call to take.
I have a question on the Silver Lake cluster. So you said that cell modem was the only option. And at the time, the school system was installed, for lack of a better word, at the Silver Lake.
Well, so
cluster.
when Scoot was
Implemented.
decided upon,
Decided upon,
Yes.
that's a good way of putting it. At that time, when that decision was being made, was there any indication that the cell service signals, that would be an issue in this area
so the
moving
cell,
forward?
the cell service is good.
Okay.
We have good cell service. It's a Verizon network, correct? And we actually installed a long-range external antenna on them.
Okay,
So we get the same service I get with my cell phone at each of these locations.
okay,
The issues aren't a service issue. It's just some other bugs we're trying to work out.
okay, because I was under the impression based that it was a cell signal issue there.
No, it is currently correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's some form of configuration somewhere.
Very different than
And
just having not a sufficient strong enough cell signal.
Correct.
Right.
Yes, the signals themselves are very good. Like I said, I get live feed. In fact, this picture was taken out of our tactic system. And so all those green happy dots mean the signals were talking to me at the time.
Okay.
So we get very good, reliable service to all of those over there.
So the configuration problems, are they Scoot problems or where are those problems?
So the cell modem issues are not Scoot related at all.
Okay,
We kind of narrowed them down, like I said, the one issue that we're kind of narrowing down with tactics, and we are working with Unix on this, which is their vendor, is the fact that the packets going back and forth are too large to do any of our database configurations. The other issue, I know that, like I said, Larry's heading up, and I think we've got a third-party IT guy helping us, and
We're working, Bill.
we got some heavy hitters on it right now, trying to figure out what that other VPN in issue is.
And we're also holding the, really, we're also holding the vendor accountable as well. Because, I was thinking, hey, you sold us something that does work,
Right.
Show us, let's fix this thing, So we're working through that right now with our IT consultant and the company.
okay.
Yeah, and some software engineers, I believe they're located in Austin for Unix. And they're working on that, so.
Well, thank you, Haley. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, distance concerns. Did we as a group evaluate, were we made aware of the distance concerns between the signals beforehand? And did that go into the decision of purchasing this?
Long story short, it all started before I got here.
No, I mean, we didn't,
Yeah, no.
Yeah, nobody on the current management team was involved in the original purchase, so.
Yeah,
but
It's,
did they tell you, this is kind of far away?
nobody said anything like that.
Thank you.
and that brings up a great point that I want to talk about. What we have now currently in Scoot is probably about all we can do, because it's within a half mile. I know there's been talk of the Hammond corridor. They're too far of a greater distance, so it wouldn't actually be a valuable add to do that. So what we have for Scoot,
We had the lights set.
so what we have for Scoot is probably, tell me if I'm speaking out of turn, this
No.
is probably what we want to stay with.
However, there are a lot of really amazing options that are in the controllers we
Yeah.
already own.
We can do a
And
lot.
we have a fantastic traffic engineer
And
in
the early
town that can
detection
help with
stuff.
timing now.
Yeah.
And we have full detection. There's a lot of things we can do to work on things. It's just a matter of getting the balls going.
So there's still options for like Hammond and stuff, but there's
It-
things we
it will
already
not be
have, and we have the in-house staff.
There may have, though, at the time, I will say this, there may have been a reference to the rural area not being as, Wayne, I think you were here at the time.
I just wasn't part of.
Yeah, but
Decision.
I think there was a reference to the rural area not being quite as tuned in as the South Airport corridor, which is essentially what we were talking about.
And really that South Airport corridor is like the textbook example of what you want to use it for.
Exactly, yeah.
So And like I said, if you do have further questions, anything you think of, please feel free to reach out. We're more than happy to help in any way we can.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. I learned a lot. Hopefully I didn't speak out of turn on about anything, so.
You will be. Whoa, if I could walk. I almost made it without hurting myself. Sorry about that.
Definitely have a different understanding of the issues on the west side.
The cluster.
The cluster.
I really like that.
I use that word every day, driving to work in it.
Any other? Oh, we got some.
So this is just a real quick update on Transmap. They are getting our data back to us. We're hoping to have all of our data by the end of the year, but this is just kind of a snapshot of what they drove. All the big dots are pictures of the.
Larry, I'm gonna ask you to remind people that might be watching what we're doing.
Oh, yes, sir. There you go. So what we're doing is we approved Transmap to come drive all of our roads, to give us a rating on those roads. It's a PCI, which is Pavement Condition Index. Currently in our asset management plan, we use PACER, and PACER is pavement, or what is it? Paver or pavement.
Pavement and
assessment.
surface evaluation.
Rating. So that PACER goes to 1 to 10. This is going 1 to 100. So we're getting a lot more data out of it. We get ride quality, we get running, we get a lot more out of this vehicle that drives the whole, drives every road we had, primary and local. And it gives us, a rating on those roads. It also gives us how many cracks are in these little polygons that you see. So we can be able to query our data and say, hey, these are candidates for overlays. These are candidates for crack seals. These are candidates for chip sealing, whatever it may be. So it's going to be a very, very nice tool for us to use in assessing how our rating our system. Pictures have been taken as well. That's just another shot there. This is Hammond right where we did work. So this doesn't have any cracks on it because it's brand new and it's pretty. All the red over here is the next section that we're going to be working on. And that is very laden with cracks. So that would look like something like this, where we have a definition or a definite line where we stopped our construction.
I think this is gonna be huge for our asset management plan moving forward, because it's actually identifying these issues, something that we're able to base off, a goal, maybe going to like a 5-year, knowing our next 5 years of road projects and have them actually built and into the file, so we can go and we know what we're doing next 5 years out. I think this is the first step in getting to that goal. So
kind of data-driven decisions, in sections like this, we can see that this whole road doesn't need to be paved here, but that little section, there's something there. Maybe a utility went through there and messed up our road, or who knows? It's just something that we can go in and do a little spot fix, and then that way we're not paving the whole thing.
So how much of the total infrastructure did they drive? How far down did they go? They did primaries
and
little
locals.
secondaries.
Well, primaries and locals.
Locals. So is it all locals?
Yes, it is. We did subdivisions.
Subdivisions, they did everything. So we have a rating for anything that is a non-HOA road, is a good way to say this. We didn't do HOA roads. Did we?
A non-HOA road.
Homeowner association subdivision.
If it's private, we didn't touch it.
Okay. Right.
And then we also did some of our gravel roads too, just to get the pictures, because these are like 360 pictures of every shot, kind of like that, Google.
Yeah.
So you kind of can walk your way right down.
So is this data then somehow linked with, is it anywhere related to the CityWorks program? How
So
conjunction with that?
it does, CityWorks does have that programming involved in it, but you still need a secondary paver type software to make that happen. Like we were going to take this data and shove it into CityWorks, but now I'm feeling the CityWorks movement here. So we need to probably just, there's a paver software that's much cheaper. And then there's also another piece of the puzzle that we could be using to help us kind of project our projects a little bit better, trying to project our you know, what's this road gonna look like in 10 years? What's this road gonna look like in 20 years? So a little more optimization in the future.
But doesn't our asset management plan utilize City Works right now?
So right now, CityWorks is still in its infancy, really. We're collecting a lot of data on potholes and things like
Right.
that, that is a great indicator to show us, okay, we've been working on this road, you know, 100 times, where our guys are out here all the time, it's time to repave this road because it's
Right.
costing us money just to send our guys out there. We have that type of data right now.
We're
And
gonna
over the
take
years, you
to
build
collect
it up.
that data. I mean, we're probably, I might be going too far, 10 years. 5,
Build
10
up
years established. of
The
City Works.
baseline,
the
right?
Because we don't
base.
even know, we're just now starting to, like I said, the guys are counting how many scoops they're putting in there. It's gonna take years of that data to show where we're at and what we're doing.
No, I understand that. I guess my point was that if this is part of this, the plan for part of our asset management plan.
This is.
Shouldn't be communicating with City Works because City Works is also part of what we are using
Yep.
for our asset management plan.
So this data is going to be put into CityWorks.
Okay, that
So,
was,
so that was the idea behind that, you know, where you click on that road and it says, okay, we've been here, we've inspected it 10 times and now in 5 years, we're gonna pave this thing or we're gonna fix this thing.
right.
And yes, so, but there's other options out there as well. So it's just a matter of, you know, we have to sit down and really talk about how CityWorks is in our system right now and what we can do or what other options we have to replace that if we do decide to go without
Because
CityWorks.
isn't that an annual renewal?
It is, and it's up for renewal right now. And
I was gonna say it's coming up.
It's about
We have
44,
to decide.
yeah, it's about 44 grand a year.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
And we're gonna share this with townships too.
yeah, we all of this is, yep, very shareable and what we're thinking, and I guess I'm thinking is, you know, we basically build them a dashboard again and give them a login and they can see the data as we can.
And based off this, we'll decide what projects we wanna, right, do overlays, or if we wanna crush and shape.
Mhm.
Maybe, you know, up at different ratings and
Yeah,
actually
again.
building a plan of what we should do.
Yeah, I mean, and project it out. It's not, you know, asset management plans, you know, you're trying to project yourself out and budgets out so that, you know, in 6 years, you'll be doing this, in 10 years, you'll be doing this. It's not, okay, we are going to do this in year 6 and then something changes or whatever. And people are like, hey, you told me you were going to do that in year 6. You know, it's a moving, breathing thing.
And this program's pretty much surface, right? I mean, it's pretty much. We're still gonna find culverts where we never thought we were. Correct?
No, that's not true.
Okay.
That's not, this is just for pavement surface
This is
and
just-
real area. Yep, real area. With this, we're getting our pavement markings, our signs,
Right.
and also the rating.
So we still have I didn't know there was culvert there issues.
We still, I think we are, will
Have that.
endlessly have that, I believe.
Sounds like Harry.
Every time we have a new hole in the road.
Something sinking.
That's fantastic. I think the townships will like that too. I think the
Yeah.
townships, they can look at, when they're making their decisions, they'll see what their worst is.
So anyway, Dan, you wanna go into team vision?
Yeah. The draft of the and that's out for review by the House subs right now.
So just want to give everybody a
Sorry
quick
about that.
update on the Kingsley project. We do have the drone back up and running, so we haven't taken pictures from the same spot. You see it, you know.
I'm sorry about that. Let me get back. I'm trying to get it back up on the screen here. Hold on. Let me see this guy. There we go.
Look, you see when we originally purchased it there, the trees are still up. We were in the middle of cutting the trees and now we're moving around really great.
A lot of dirt.
They're moving a lot of dirt and they're moving it really fast. It's really impressive. It's took a couple pictures from the ground level.
Height though, yeah, you're looking at.
We still haven't done a shovel turn.
There, if you wanna,
Next one.
yeah, go through the next couple here, you can really see what's going on. So, yes, we're at a point where we can actually get down into the location now. Actually drove down there this week with the truck. So it'd be a great time to do a ground.
There we go. Alright, I think.
Where the roller is now is actually, that is gonna be the main building. And we're.
Oh, that's pretty level.
Yeah, we're about
Yeah.
a foot off of grade right now, we need to come up another foot.
Yeah, wow, it was really deep.
Yeah, it's really impressive. If you want, Larry, you can just roll through. You have the stumps in the back corner there, so we did remove those. There's quite a bit of dirt there we can bring down.
But the light.
Pretty cool. There's our driveway coming in, so it's actually not gonna come out too bad of a grade, and we were pretty concerned about that originally. Still shooting to about 4.5% grade coming down. We should still have the ability to get the gravel streams out of there. As you can see right here, this is a few days apart. That's where that large hill was. Then you can now see those level. I think the beginning picture you saw where the building was at, they've already removed that hill, so. They're hoping to finish up next week with all the major moving of earth and just do some fine tuning the next following weeks. And they're hoping to actually start putting a foundation in and doing groundwork in beginning of November. So they're actually gonna be bringing gravel in here shortly after this. And so get the cement trucks done in there. We're moving.
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Very exciting. So with that, with my new responsibilities and roles, obviously I've been supporting this in project. Bernie Jacobson, who's with us, one of our techs. Bernie has 30 years of experience. He does a great job for us with roads, bridges. But Bernie actually has quite a bit of experience on site of building construction. So I've planned Bernie to help me out with this project, so he can be my backup for going to meetings. Unfortunately, I'm probably not gonna be able to make it on site on a daily basis anymore. Bernie's gonna go in, do check-ins, and then he can report back to me, and I'll hit major meetings. But just something I found interesting, you know, Bernie used to work for Gordy Fraser. A couple buildings he was involved in was the Munson, the new ER expansion there. He was involved in that, doing inspections. The Heart Center for Munson as well, Northwest Michigan College, and Kalkaska Memorial Hospital. So he has some really good experience with buildings. So it's gonna be great to have him on site and help seeing day-to-day activities. So big help.
What's his last name?
Jacobson. That's all I had. The only one thing we have been working on, I know we got the millage, we've been wanting to get the signs out. There's a sheet that's handed out to everybody, so that is a list of all the roads so far by year. And we do have 29 signs out currently that said that, you know, this project was funded. From your local village. So working with Larry, they're getting those all GPS located where the signs are at, so we actually know where our signs are. And as we get that done, we'll get you guys a map. Cool.
That's good. That's right. Anything else?
That's all I got for updates.
We're back to set the preview the schedule for next year. Any questions on that? Are we just setting this or just?
Just kind of more, sorry, Dan.
That's right.
More just a draft. I know like we've talked about doing maybe 2 meetings a month or whatever, just kind of something for everybody to look at and figure out maybe what works and whatnot, and maybe next meeting or December be able to approve something, so we're ready to go for next year.
I know that I've been just trying to keep the second, fourth.
Okay.
Eventually, I think it's gonna happen.
I don't think we meet often enough. We get to this time of night.
I agree with you.
I think, Kyle, you should work on this and.
Do you wanna?
You want me to make a motion or you want to do it? I'm just, I thought we were having a free discussion.
Oh, yeah.
But I think we should meet every other week, at least, twice a month, at least
Wanna
every
start
other
that
month.
next month?
Anytime. There's a lot we don't cover.
The next couple
We
months
get,
are short.
we get to the end, we get to at least next year in the
How about we
spring,
start that next year?
yeah. Every other month at least.
Twice every month.
So I was thinking we'd meet twice. a
every
month,
other month.
Every other month.
I
If people don't wanna commit, then we run.
Yeah,
Same time, different time, different day.
And then the question will be, do we want to have it as a just work session? Or do we want to
We
have,
want to be able to do business.
so we're 2 regular meetings a
I
month?
think so.
Okay.
every
I have
other
no problem
month.
with
I
it.
like the idea of have 2 meetings every other month, because we may not have enough.
I'm just thinking, maybe we can take baby steps into it, but we don't, there's a lot of things we've missed and now 2.5 years into my 2 3/4 years into my service, I'm thinking there's a lot of things we've missed. Sometimes the communication issues we talked about, I mean, it's already been 3 hours and 5 minutes. I don't think they should be longer than 2 hours.
Well, our staff's been here all day.
Yeah. And it's already, yeah.
So Kylie,
Some of us have, some people have a long drive home.
can you kind of come up with that concept?
I do have, I guess I do have one concern about that. We haven't even, at the board level, we haven't even started talking about budget. And it's gonna be November next week, and
It'll be a lot of work.
it's gonna, I mean, yeah, I don't know how between in
Well,
next 2 months, we are going,
we've-
depending upon the level of communication and ground we have to cover, how we'll be able to do it in 2 meetings.
I think we've all got an idea of what's
Do
necessary.
you have a timeline on the person that you extended a invitation to? If it goes the way that you would like it to, is
Yeah.
this person able to work even this year, or would it be?
Yes, I had them starting in November. I wanted them for the November meeting. And I did put in there that you could start, I did offer him like a contract.
Yeah.
To start sooner if he wants to give his current employer 2 or 3
Right.
weeks. He
Yeah.
can work after hours, weekends,
Okay.
and start getting familiar with what's going on here.
Yeah.
So,
We'll have a budget.
Well, I'm confident we have a budget. I'm talking more about our ability to have input into that budget.
Well,
I'm not
we
concerned
have-
about the.
We have
Not having a
that
budget.
committee system and I'm gonna activate the committee. to Have 2 commissioners.
Okay.
So you're gonna have commissioner input as we do this budget. I can't remember who's on, I think I'm
You,
on that.
yeah, you're on it,
and
yeah.
I can't remember the other person that's off the top of my head, I'm sorry.
I think it might be me.
So,
Because we're,
so we are gonna help, but hopefully that's okay, just because we're in a unique situation
yes, definitely,
where
when we get back.
2 of us actually have government budget knowledge. So,
So the drop dead on the budget would have to be this count, you guys have a
December
fiscal
31st.
year
Mhm.
12/31, right? Like, okay. So
we need to approve it in December.
the road commission's meeting is the 14th in December,
Yeah,
because it's early because of everything else.
we have
going
to have it wrapped up by the 14th.
Okay, so that would have to be your budget resolution and then would have to be submitted to whoever it is you submit your budget resolution. Okay.
So sorry to volunteer for more work, but.
I do have a collection from the different departments, of stuff, and I've been laying it out in the office down here. And I also did get some ideas from them today too, of things that we could do to stay legal, to approve a budget, and then, we'll do some updates to it.
Hopefully we have a resolution out of that person soon.
Yeah, if we don't have, maybe the path that you're hoping to go down, we just have to really expedite path then. And I know it's a really hard time of year to even say that with both holidays and obviously anybody that would have a position like this needs to give proper notice and time to step away from their job. So, if you think about it that way, if this doesn't work out, we are really looking at after this budget is due before potentially, somebody would be in. So I just wanted to make sure we had that safety net agreement or something if this doesn't go the way that we're thinking.
Are we here yet?
We are ready for the.
No. I'm still got some things to.
All right, we're
Okay.
ready for comments.
All right, first of all, I wanted to address the finance position as well, so I'm glad that Nader brought that up. If you're ready to take somebody, and I think at least for the meantime, a contract for hourly services is probably very appropriate. And kind of looking forward, that'll take some of that pressure off you, get that taken care of, get the budget stuff ready. The other thing that I mentioned earlier is if you need an assistant to help you with scheduling, maybe a little PR work,
Yep.
maybe as a liaison in some capacity to either the departments or townships or whatever, somebody who can talk to people, be your voice, so that you can focus on what you're doing in the meantime. Okay, now, having said that, we do have a responsibility to consider what the permanent position situation is. And I know that I think we did a pretty decent job with Human Resource Partners when they helped us find Brad, for example. And I wouldn't mind looking in that direction, just even talk about it. I don't want to rush it though, because I think for right now, I'm happy with the level of work. You've really stepped up and you've taken on a lot of responsibility, but I don't want you to fail for lack of time, mental capacity, whatever it is, because this is a fire hose of information. And I know when you got the call, you were somewhere else in the state. Okay, what? Okay. That's just something, but I think we should, as a board, then in one of these next meetings, we should have that discussion of how soon we want to talk about looking. If we're happy to wait and continue to monitor the situation, we shouldn't have to feel rushed. I mean, we certainly have somebody who knows the staff, knows the situation on the ground. This is not like we're without a manager, okay, like we were at that time. So anyhow, that's all I had to say. I think you're doing a fine job. Keep it up. And as you have our back. We had your back,
So, and then we may have a special meeting before the next meeting.
Okay.
Because we just weren't able to do a couple of things and get them done for tonight.
Yeah.
It'll probably happen first part of next week, so.
I want to piggyback off what Jason said, is that I personally am not in a huge rush to undertake a search, formal search for a permanent road manager position. I think we have to address a couple of things that are of more immediate nature. Get the right finance manager in there, work on the budget, get that done. For me, like Jason said, I'm very pleased with the things that have been going since you have been on the job as interim. But I view it as like, it's kind of like you're auditioning for the position too. I don't know what your plans are, if you intend to throw your name in the hat. I don't know that. I have not talked to you about that, but this is an opportunity, as far as I'm concerned, for us to see how this is working, how the communication is working, and also an opportunity for you to learn as to what this job is and whether you actually want to do this job or apply for it. So I'm content with having another couple of months to let's see how this process plays out and address the more immediate items that we have to address.
I have a whole list. You want to look? I agree with that. I don't want us to be in a temporary position so long that if let's say we interviewed managers and Dan was the manager, the longer we wait because we're not sure the positions underneath, it keeps the staff from taking the next position. If you're going to be the manager, you're not going to be the superintendent.
Right.
Those superintendent candidates need to move into position. And you're probably not ready to replace yourself if you say, I might not want this. Being the political head of the road commission and having arrows shot at me in all directions is not what I enjoy. So I think Dan is doing a great job, and I'm 100% supportive, and it was a great decision. But I don't think it should be, we shouldn't make haste, but we shouldn't let it lag either. So I think if we talk about it in the meeting next month, I think that's really good. We've already talked about adding some meetings. I don't like the commissioner's privilege being at the end of a long thing, because I think we'd like to talk about things. We're not supposed to go meet in pairs to subvert the Open Meetings Act. So we have to have time for a dialogue. Okay, we'll think about that, then we'll come back next month, maybe we'll think about it again, but we don't have time for that. At the end of 3 hours and 15 minutes, everybody's had it, we're gonna rush out of here. And I don't think that's the way it should be. We can't go down to Slutters and talk about it because that's illegal, even though we might want to. Even though we might want to. I want to commend Dan on the organizational chart. You know, I had this row with.
Wait, is there a new one?
Yeah, it came in your email. Well, maybe she didn't
It's in
get
your
it.
email somewhere. Yeah.
Maybe she wasn't on the list, Dan.
She's on the list.
It was.
Now I find out I'm not on the organization.
No.
Well, you know, on the organization.
I think a group our size, the department heads need to report to the manager. And I think it was something you recognized right away, something that we had that was not working for us. And I think the fact that you've already done that is really a big step. I really commend you for that. Projects like stuff in Peninsula Township, which I've been involved with already for a couple of years, we've always had bad news and we want to get it back on the list. When those kind of things happen, I think the commissioner should be involved. And I don't, we've heard from the people in the township and we want to take action and we want to move some of these projects that have gotten pushed out. Maybe we're going to try some unconventional solutions, and get some of these things solved.
We have a committee for a reason.
Yes, and
I don't know why it was on, why somebody went around that, but that committee exists for a reason and should meet.
Yep. We've talked a little bit about, I'll try to keep it short. We've talked a little bit about the prices and what's happening with the person who does our majority of road work in town. And how I kind of feel based on the pricing we've got the last year, we get an engineer's estimate and we've been paying quite a bit over our engineer's estimates. And I think if the estimates are relatively accurate, which I think Wayne and his group do, we may need to take a stand against anything that's over the engineer's estimate, say, we really want that, but we're so short on the budget, we're only gonna go with projects that come in, my feeling now, a little bit, after being hijacked a little bit in the past 24 months, that if the project is over the engineer's estimates, that's gonna have to be put on. I'd like to think about that.
An over percentage of whatever.
And this is something that you and I, we've had these conversations since before you were on the board. We need to cultivate some competition here. And having Reeve Riley owning Elmer's didn't help the competitive nature of the business at all. If we have to start packaging whole projects for people to come in and mobilize from far and away distant places to make it worth their while, maybe we have to do that.
The local guys are good company and they've done good work, but our responsibility to the citizens is not to be extorted or to always be paying Cadillac, Mercedes, Lexus prices, BMW prices for standard work.
Well, I brought this up a few meetings ago, and we had a whole discussion about this exact topic, and at that time, it was like, well, it's not feasible, to your point, because we'll have to bring workers and house them, and so it will become too expensive. But that was my point, is that we are basically being pushed into a corner with just one entity, keep bidding, and they're the only show in town, and they can dictate their prices, and we have no other alternative, and that's why I voted no on a couple of those projects.
And I appreciate that, Hyder. I think we probably should have voted no a few more times. We could consider, but yet they want our business and we want to deal with these companies, and they need our business. They made companies that do this kind of work hugely capital intensive.
Yeah.
Let's say next year we didn't do any work. We didn't do any work. we just paid off our garage instead. I think we should think about that we're also the level of work we do is valuable to the contractors. And kind of get that message across. If somebody watches the video, maybe they'll see what Mr. Lehman is
I mean,
espousing.
the question I have is, do we have any, I mean, have those guys from Gaylord come back for any other bids since the,
We lost the roundabout
since we lost the roundabout bid?
No, they have not bid on, they're predominantly an earthwork company. But no, the short answer is no, they have not bid on it.
It's,
Yes,
supposedly there's some people coming in, but they're not here, so.
Okay, the phone tree, the getting rid of, with fantastic. I think at some time, we should, you liked your road ride along.
Oh,
I
yeah.
really think in the spring, we should get a couple Suburbans and do a road tour.
Originally, we were supposed to do an officials tour that never materialized over the summer, where we were gonna, and this is a throwback, to Dylan Beck days, where you used to get beta buses and you put elected officials on there and you would go from project to project and you would show folks what we're doing and
We do that at the county commission.
So,
could we put that on our list for next year?
somehow that didn't materialize this year, so I'm hoping that next year it can materialize.
Okay, yeah, so on the list is, yeah.
All right, I'll leave everything out until next time.
So,
Gotta rush out of here.
Yeah, gotta rush out of here after.
I want to double on what Alan said. I'm sorry, with all due respect. I think we should move forward fairly rapidly. We are transparent about this. The only discussions we can have about it is at the board. And we should at least let Dan decide if this is something he's interested in. If it isn't, then I think we need to at least go out and look. Having worked for an agency that didn't have leadership for the better part of the year, it is taxing beyond belief. Most of you that know me know that personally. I haven't been okay for several months. It's been about 6 months. So I take this personally. No matter with best laid intentions of how hard you work. I mean, I'm 7 days a week in my office. I can't keep up. It's that instability of not knowing. It has nothing to do with how great the people are that are here, because they are. But like, there's only so much you can do. And I just think we should move forward on it. And I think it's great if we have internal candidates and it's great if we have external, but I just think we need to move forward on it because we didn't intend to be in this position at this time. And I think we need to be really cognizant of how many people work here and their plans and what they need to do. And everybody wears a hat and a half or a hat and a quarter or 3 hats. And when you don't have that, situation solidified. So I think we should at least have, as a board, an open discussion about what our ideas are about moving forward. In no way does that at all reflect on my views of how people are doing right now. But I am here to tell you it is not sustainable. It will eventually kill you. It really will. So I say that from the bottom of my heart. We should move forward with solid leadership. So everybody that works here feels good about it.
and that's why, don't be surprised if there's a special meeting between now and the next.
There should be,
regular.
because I'm going to Europe in 3 weeks. I just decided today. Because my job's been tough.
Usually people just go to Florida.
so
Go
you
back.
You can't go to Europe because your job is tough.
I'm telling you right now, every staff member will run away from me.
Us leaves will kind of just like suffer it out here. Wow.
I just re-roofed my house, I'm not going anywhere. Before I forget, I understand the shoreline restoration loan program is up and running.
Yes.
We as road commission cannot apply for that funds. So, I mean,
Are we talking about coastal zone management?
yes, whatever that
Okay,
program is. I'm
CZM
sorry, I couldn't
program?
remember.
Yeah, but it's a
My understanding
federal
is finally up and
program.
running.
So
We cannot
CZM is
apply.
eligible through Brownfield and all of those sorts of
County
things.
can apply and a township can apply.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you guys are talking to those folks.
Well, that would be
I
a
nudged
reason
the
for our committee
administrator
to
on it.
meet about Bluff Road.
Because technically we don't own Undergrowth Road, but we could do the construction to redo it if we had the money. We don't own the bluff.
No, but if we don't fix the bluff, I think
We have
it
the
would
technology to fix it.
be a
just don't have the
problem
money.
for the road.
So like I said, I nudged the administrator on it and I didn't get much back, but
You are correct. I believe just the county can apply. There's avenues, but I believe that is correct.
that, public comments, everybody want public comment?
Yeah.
He waited until 9:25.
Well, I was gonna try not to say anything at all, but you guys hit some.
You don't have to reread the rules, do we?
No,
Okay.
we don't.
Scott
say
could
that.
recite the rules for public.
I can make it 3 minutes, I swear. I'm Scott Seifert, County Commissioner, Grand Traverse County Commission, District 8. First, Mr. Watkins, congratulations on your new position, whether it be interim or permanent, whatever. Congratulations. We, at my end, my commission, we have high expectations. Welcome and wish you well. There's the first arrow I just.
I think he's already.
Second, not to overshadow the work that Larry ran off and Kylie and all the crew from the study session, the corridor study session you had on Tuesday was fabulous. You guys really went all out with the signs on the wall, the information that was shared. It was very overwhelming. Not overwhelming, it was very much appreciated. And I'm sorry I didn't see it to the end. I would like to make the suggestion as you talk about reaching out to townships and stuff, that perhaps that you have that same thing once in the spring, and then once in the fall, where you're sharing your projects, what we want to do, working with the townships, and what we've accomplished. I think it was fantastic how it brought everybody together. I had some really good sidebar conversations with people. It was very, very well received. There was a fifth thing I forgot already. Third thing, personally for my district, and this is kind of a conditional kudos because I haven't went down the road yet, but I really appreciate your guys' quick response and helping Paradise Township and the Village of Kingsley with Spring Street, Kingsley Road by the high school there. That's been like terrible for as long as I can remember. And I know that the state and the rail system is very difficult to work with. So we really appreciate that. It's been very well received on social media. Again, I only live 6 blocks away. Haven't tried it out yet, but thank you so much for doing that. If I remember the fifth thing, fourth thing, Mr. Lehman's comment about fiscal responsibility. Stick with that, go with that. You'll go a long, long way. I appreciate that. I think that's a great idea. Where you talk about keeping costs down, and you talk about some of these other huge projects where you're gonna have the fund. It's like, hey, maybe we should take a break and it's like, hey, we're just gonna do some light maintenance, pay off some more debt. You know, I hope America at home was listening. They need to be doing that too. And the fifth thing is the coastal zone management loan thing. I heard reach out to the BRA. I know a guy.
You're the rep right now this year, right?
I'm on, yeah.
Okay, I haven't made it to any of the meetings. I do the work for them, but
I'm also on the land bank. So I'm gonna throw that out there, but please reach out.
yeah, we used CZM through the BRA before, and I think that there's a possibility there. I don't know. We'll need to talk about in an open meeting with the Peninsula people and everything. Thank you. I will talk to
Everyone,
you.
great work, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thanks for staying, Scott.
No other public comment, entertain a motion
To adjourn.
to adjourn.
Hallelujah.